Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast. This is episode 133. Say that I'm looking at Nate for approval because I always forget what episode we're on. So this is episode 133. I have a couple special guests. I have Nicholas Perdomo from Perdomo Cigars.
What's going on?
And Tim Kime, also from Perdomo Cigars. They have matching shirts as opposed to like last week, we all had matching T-shirts. So we're keeping that theme alive, which is fantastic. I want to thank everyone for tuning in on the Facebook Live and also YouTube Live. If you guys want to comment, we have a feed going. So if you guys are listening to the audio, this is a great time to kind of point out that every week around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesdays, we broadcast live from the studio, otherwise known as a garage. And it's fucking hot.
I'm good, man.
You're good. Yeah. Okay.
This is cool for me. I'm from Miami.
Don't say it's not cool. This is hot. I mean, it's humid for Miami, right?
No, we're more humid.
All right. Well, I'm not jealous. I want to thank, let's see, let's throw them up on the screen here. Thank our sponsors. We got Tinder Box at Easton. They are by way of Perdomo Cigars, in a sense, providing the Perdomo 10th anniversary. This is a new 10th anniversary. This is a featured cigar, and we're going to be focusing on the Sungrown blend. And we're excited to smoke that. Also by way of Stogie Smoke Stop, Robbie down there, right, is where these cigars.
Robbie Graham. I don't have any, so I had to buy some from him. So
yeah, Nicholas Perdomo doesn't have the new cigars even.
No, I don't.
They sold them all.
That's right.
I want to thank Altadis USA for the. Typically they sponsor the second weekly cigar. I didn't know what cigars we'd have, so I do have some backups of the Romeo Julieta 1875 Bully, which is one of their number one SKUs. So thank you, Josh Bentley, who actually may be on next week from Altadis USA. But thank you, guys. You see the flag behind us, Romeo Julieta, Monte Cristo, H. Upman, and countless other brands. But we appreciate the support year-round from them. And also BS Cigar Company. I was smoking a silver before this. I think I got a couple gold somewhere around here, and I think they're floating around the garage as usual as well. And then last and certainly not least, I want to throw it up there, the Patreon. So we've gotten more support since last week, which I appreciate. We had a new patron, actually, and one that upped it. So patreon.com, Bourbon and BS podcast. There are now tiers there. So you've got 3 tiers, and it's kind of a different way to get one of these T-shirts that I'm already sweating through as we speak. It says, I always have to look, pour one more. Light up another. We'll figure this out together. On the back is the podcast logo. So that's our first type of swag we have. So there are different ways you guys can get it. It's a beautiful tri-blend, very comfortable, even in this really cool 86 degree weather that Nicholas says is like not a heat wave, ready for winter. It's a nice fall night near the equator. So, yeah, check that out, patreon.com, Bourbon and BS podcast, and help us out. I mean, we appreciate all the support. Some of the patrons are sitting in the garage right now in the live studio audience here in Columbus, Ohio. Beautiful Columbus, Ohio. All right, guys, enough about that. Nicholas, not your first time to Columbus, right?
No, second time.
Second time. Last time it was a little cooler than this. Is that right?
It was about 10 degrees.
10 degrees. Yeah, that's
it's cold.
It's a little cooler. Yeah, you were dressed out. That's what I was talking about before the podcast. I'm like, I don't know what he's gonna like wear. I don't know if he's like a suit guy. I don't know like what's gonna happen. I texted Tim. I was like, you gotta make sure you guys dress a little cooler.
Yeah, we ran back to the hotel, changed.
Were you in a suit earlier?
Sports jacket.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that here. Absolutely not. So what's been going on with you guys? You guys are traveling this week. Like, explain kind of what you're doing in town. It's not just for the podcast as much as I'd like to think that.
Well, just wanted to come visit our retailers, especially with everything going on. I miss being out on the road. This is my first time back on the road since last March.
March.
Yeah, so just happy to be back out. And we released our new Perdomo Reserve 10th anniversary in Sungrown, and we released it in Maduro. And it's been a huge success, probably the biggest launch that we've ever had in the history of our company. So just out, trying to share some of these cigars, and guys are really excited about it. And stores who've ordered them, they've been doing really well. So just real happy to be back out on the road and working with the great Tim Kime. So.
The great
That's
Tim
right.
Kime.
Yeah, that's too kind, Nicholas. But yeah, no, we taking Nicholas on a tour of Ohio. Monday we hit Columbus, Tuesday we hit Dayton, Wednesday here in Columbus, and Thursday's Toledo, and Friday's Columbus until I kick him out of the car on Friday back to the airport. So
it's fantastic. I do want to give a shout out. So this is a great moment where I can say that we do have some live viewers right now. Tim thinks that there's going to be a lot. This is your first podcast?
First podcast. Yeah.
And live podcast on top of that.
Yes.
So not only that, but we got Bobby Hirschman, who's
no
Bobby Hirschman, who we were talking about before. He already says he will pay for you to remove Timmy. So
hi, Bobby.
Throw out an
Hi,
offer.
buddy.
Throw out an offer, Bobby. We'll see what happens. Might just like pan the camera a little over. But no, tack in. But yeah, welcome to Shannon, Chris, John, Bobby, obviously. Who else do we have on? Cesar and Joshua. A couple other people got, so fantastic. Guys, share it. This is great to have you guys on. So the 10th anniversary, let's kind of dive into it a little bit. And then I want to kind of get into sort of in part one, but also part two. We're going to go over a topic that we've kind of touched on in the past called SWOT, SWOT, SWOT analysis. And we can kind of get into a little bit more what you guys do for the company in part two, I think. But I mean, with part one, we're all lighting up. We're all lit up, right? With this Perdomo Reserve. And I've actually got the wrong cigar lit.
Come on, Steve.
Jesus Christ. Go talk amongst yourselves. Talk amongst yourself. So the branding is different, but much the same. I've got some gold. It looks totally different. Jesus Christ.
That's all right, man.
All right. So talk to us about what was the reason. So you had the 10th anniversary. You had the champagne, right? So the champagne was the original, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's the original. Well, it was part of the Perdomo Reserve. So we came out with this 10th anniversary reserve. It's been grandfathered by the FDA. This is a brand that my family came out with back in 1999, around there. And so we have this trademark grandfathered. It's a new old brand. So, we wanted to come out with something new. We reblended this cigar completely. It's a very unique cigar. It's totally different from anything in our portfolio. Majority of the tobaccos and the filler tobaccos are pretty much predominantly from Jalapa, Nicaragua, which produces sweeter, more aromatic type of tobaccos. So this is more of a medium plus type of blend. But when I tell you it's full flavored, there's a lot of sweetness and very aromatic type of cigar. So,
yeah. And it's all, from what I read, it's all 6-year-old tobacco.
6-year-old tobaccos, wrapper, filler, binder, sun-grown wrappers. We barrel aged those for 10 months in bourbon barrels after the fermentation.
Explain that for me, will you?
So barrel aging process, basically it's a second fermentation process. It really rounds out the tobacco. So what it does is it seals in the colors. When you look at the cigars in the box, they're really nice, even in parallel. The second thing it does is it rounds out harshness, such as ammonias and nitrates, being that it's within those woods. And the last thing is you're going to get a really nice aroma. You're not going to get so much of a bourbon flavor. You're going to get more of a woodier, refined type of aroma. So it's very costly, but my father believes it's the best way to finish off the product, and especially with those wrapper tobaccos. So that's why we do it. And
you've been doing this for the whole time. I mean, the Habano series, you've been doing the barrel aged.
Well, it's funny. We've been doing it before Perdomo Habano Bourbon Barrel Aged.
Okay.
We just never advertised it. It was something my grandfather actually did.
Right. But I mean, like, it was when you had, like, before you advertised it, you've done some rebranding, obviously, across, you know, the bands, I feel like you've made them pop more, you've really kind of upped the game. Not that it needed to be upped, but I mean, you've really kind of gone back and really punched up some of the staple brands. Blends, if you will.
Right.
But I mean, with that one, before you advertised the bourbon barrel aged, which I feel like is part of the bourbon craze. I know that a couple other companies started really putting that on the blends.
Right.
And you guys were sitting there, from my understanding, is that it's like, we've been doing this the whole time. And then you started putting it on some of the boxes. Is that accurate, or is that off?
Well, we started advertising it back in 2014 when we repackaged the Perdomo Habano Bourbon Barrel Aging. So we wanted to really talk about it, but we've been doing it probably since about 2000. My grandfather believed it's the best way to finish off tobacco. It's just a great way to round out and take out the harshness.
Yeah.
So it's something we've been doing for about 20 years. So,
damn. And you guys have been around for how long? We have the 20th anniversary, but that was
back in 2012. We came out with it. So we've been out with, my father started the company in August of 1992.
92. And all right, so that's it's a question then. 20th anniversary in 2012.
Yep.
Right. No 25th.
No 25th. That was So that was 2017.
Smack dab in the FDA
Yeah.
bullshit going on.
Well, yeah. So we didn't really, we wanted to come out with the 25th. We didn't. So we held off. We will come out with another anniversary line.
Probably the 30th. Feel like that's next.
Eventually we will. Yeah, probably about the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Why don't you hand me that bottle? I'll crack it while we talk here.
Sure.
I think, for the record, if anyone's following along at home, this is the longest we've gone without any whiskey in our glasses on this podcast out of 133 episodes. 9 minutes. Let's not try to beat that record. Who else is smoking the 10th anniversary in the audience? We got Nate, and we have Dustin and Shannon. Shannon. See, you did the same thing. So I think Kyle, our photographer, Kyle B. Smith Photography, right? As I hit it right? I'm going to need an adult to open this, by the way.
Come on, Steve. You got muscles, dude.
All right, I'm trying to talk and do this at the same time. That's the excuse. But I think you grabbed that 20th anniversary and took photos. So if you want to grab one of these other guys, and then once we pour, you can maybe take a couple more pictures of this. I got it, man. I can do it myself.
Nice job.
Is it? You guys let me pour you guys first here. Or if you want to pour yourself, you guys can be your own bartender. I don't want to.
No problem.
I don't want to overserve our guests here, especially because they didn't Uber.
Tell me when, Timmy.
Tell you when.
That's plenty. Yep.
So we are pouring this Wilderness Trail, which is the featured whiskey. But I do want to point out.
Tell me when, Steve.
That's a bad game to play with me. That's good right there. And then we'll cork that back up. I'm going to throw it up on the screen just so everyone following along at home, now that we're all smoking the 10th anniversary Sungrown. So I know you touched on a little bit, and Tim, you can chime in if you'd like, but I mean, it's so we missed the 25th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
You're approaching the 30th. And what was the reason? Because I'm not against it, because you had the Perdomo 10th anniversary, the Sungrown, which we still have some of those in the shop where we're at.
Correct.
So Tinder Box at Easton, I know a lot of shops still have those. And then you had the 10th anniversary Noir.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Correct.
that's it, right?
Right.
So then the strategy was slow sellers, just didn't have the tobacco anymore, thought that it didn't do it justice. Where are we at as far as like the thought process behind? Because again, when I'm thinking about it, you guys knocked it out of the park with obviously the champagne. That's got to be one of your top SKUs.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
That's our number one.
That's your number one, Tim. Is that? I mean,
yeah.
You just basically keep reselling.
Yeah, I mean that's my number one overall. Yeah, in my territory for sure.
Yeah. All right, so you go back and you're like, all right, so what's the reasoning, I guess, or strategy? If it's trade secret, you guys don't want to share, you can just say that. I mean,
well, it's a combination. We had the brand out for about 7-8 years, and so we, tobaccos were running out, and instead of
tobacco was running out.
Yeah, tobacco was running out. Instead of my dad, we don't want to put the band on another blend, because you'll know if you smoke the cigar, you know that the cigar should be totally different.
Right.
That's one. And number two, 10th anniversary Perdomo Reserve. That's a brand that's grandfathered by the government, so by the FDA. So
the branding itself.
Yeah. So we knew that we wanted to repackage the cigar, but also come out with a great blend.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. So we wanted to. It's safe. You'll be able to sell it.
Is it a grandfathered blend, or are we not worried about that?
We're not worried about that. It's a trademark.
It's the trademark. It's the fact that it's all Nicaraguan tobacco.
Right.
So you're not as worried about that. Especially we had
same sizes.
Mm-hmm. Now I noticed you did do it like the kind of like the 20th a little bit, where you have like a soft box press.
It has a soft box press. As a matter of fact, it's slightly more box pressed.
Yeah. As I can hold up my
Wrong
barely
cigar
lit
again.
20th. It's the wrong feature. It's a great cigar, the 20th, but yeah. So it is more box press. It's flatter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We wanted to. The original Perdomo Reserve. That cigar was very box pressed. It was a lot more box pressed than these, but we kind of wanted to go old school. We wanted to make a cigar with that type of box press, a little bit less of a box press, but we wanted to make something nice, medium plus type of cigar, real rich, smooth, and a lot of sweetness. That's what we were going for.
And I mean, when you're looking at this, you guys, again, I feel like you kind of punched up the branding on it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Steve, you're a retailer. You know that, when you have customers, I think as the manufacturer, it's our job to package the cigars as best as we possibly can. and use shelf talkers, things like that to help while you're with the customer and there's another customer walking, so he can, the product's visible. And that's really what we're about. We want to help our customers. We want to be a good partner.
Tim, how's this been selling for you?
Yeah, I mean, overall, this new brand has been a huge success in my market. Quicker I'm getting orders, the quicker it's going out of the warehouse, and guys and stores are selling through their initial order in 2-3 weeks, and they're going to need more product. But overall, I could see these two brands succeeding for 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
No doubt.
Overall, it's been a huge success.
No doubt. Is this something we should probably look forward to seeing, this type of pressed cigar from Perdomo? Is this a new thing coming out from you guys? Or I know it's not necessarily a new it's not a new technique overall,
right?
But like you said, you guys took a different approach a little bit with it. Is this kind of a new wave coming forward with some new blends where you guys might keep this type of a structured cigar?
Not necessarily. We wanted to, especially with the packaging, with the foils and the hologram, and everything, the holographic look and everything like that. When we press the cigars, it sits really well on the band. So it has a really nice, elegant presentation. We like box press cigars as well.
Yeah.
But overall, not necessarily. I think we'll be making round cigars still.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like this shape. It's easy. It's not, like you said, it's not that hard, and nothing wrong with round or the really hard 90 degrees types. I enjoy a lot of those. Sometimes not always preferred, but this one is like, as far as, and I hate the term mouthfeel, I just don't like it, but the mouthfeel is real nice. It does. All right, it feels good when you're smoking. It feels good in your mouth. Why are you laughing, Tim? Feels, yeah, right. No, I think it does. I think it's easy smoking. The construction, the draw is pretty effortless, which is fantastic, but it's not airy. So it's definitely impressive. When I'm looking at this, how does this differ from the blue, the Maduro, which we also have on the table? I know we're focusing on the Sungrown, but as far as the second cigar here, or the third, depending on how you guys spin it, you have the Champagne, now you have the Sungrown, which is a new blend, and now you have the Maduro, which is also a new blend.
Well, the Maduro in Spanish means ripe, so naturally it has a sweetness to the wrapper.
Yeah.
Where the Sungrown has a little bit more of an earthy, a little bit more of a spice to it.
Yeah.
But the way we blended the cigar, the filler tobaccos that's really what's so unique about this blend for us. We put so much tobacco normally, from Jalapa, so that's why it's so sweet and so aromatic. So a little bit of that spice with the Sungrown, with the sweetness from the filler, and then even more sweetness with that Maduro wrapper. It's just there's a lot of complexity. Yeah.
No, I love it. So I do want to shout out while we are watching here. We got Wade Cates said he pulled over to fire up his second BBA Habano.
Wade Cates is a good man.
So Wade. He says now getting this Peterbilt back on the road. Cheers. So
yeah, he's a man's man.
Safety first. Pull over before you light up a cigar.
Oh yeah.
Knee driving, especially a Peterbilt, might be a little difficult. So
yeah, sure.
Not that we haven't all done it.
Yeah, he's a good man. Great man.
So I don't know, like Tim, what are you seeing back on the road? You said this is a great seller for you. I'm curious.
So, overall, when this whole COVID hit, I was off the road for a couple weeks, and then we got back on the road. And June, July, August has been the busiest I've ever seen the cigar business.
It's booming.
I think we're seeing, another cigar boom.
Yeah.
You said that.
Right now.
You said that to me earlier.
Yeah. Every day, both of my phones just nonstop ringing. We're truly blessed that our business is doing well.
No doubt.
Your work phone and your burner, or?
Yeah, the drug phone and this phone. Yeah.
My pager's beeping like crazy, man.
But no, overall, my market's doing very well. We're doing great with Tinder Box, Easton, and overall, we're just truly blessed that I work for a great company, and so our cigars are selling like hotcakes, man. It's
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. I don't know. I'm really enjoying the cigar.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you guys have. It's a family-run business. You said 92 was the start of it, right?
Yes.
So you came into it. I mean, we can get into this a little bit more in part 2, but I mean, while we're talking about Perdomo Cigars, you referred to your father. Obviously, you know, you guys were featured, and he was featured, and he gave a little bit of kind of background in that hand-rolled documentary.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't checked it out, hand-rolled, I think it's still available for rent. I don't think it's a part of anything for free, but I mean, it goes to support different parts of the industry, but it's hand-rolled. And I think Pete Johnson from Tatuaje was kind of behind that project. And it has some of the greats in the industry, your father included.
Thank you. Yep.
And it's something where you mentioned your grandfather. This is one of those things that you've got the family history behind Perdomo Cigars. You've got the name on it. And now here comes Nicholas the third.
Correct.
And did you want to be in the business?
All my life.
Really?
All my life. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember in first grade, kids would go, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a baseball player. And I used to say, I want to be a cigar maker at 6 years old. You know, and everybody looked at me like I was crazy. So, but it's all I ever knew. I looked up, I grew up, you know, looking up to my dad and my grandfather, the two most influential men in my life. And so it was something I always wanted to do. I wanted to be just like them.
Now, you went to like straight into it, high school to cigars, you go to college? I think I know the story, but I mean.
Yeah, so I started college. I went to the University of Miami in 2013, and I worked part-time at the office. I started in shipping. Then my father moved me to in-house sales. So I worked in-house sales.
What year did you start with the company? I'm sorry to interrupt.
I started working part-time I started working part-time in 2013.
Okay.
That's when I started.
So 7 years ago.
And in the summertime as a kid as well, before school started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you went to inside sales.
Yes.
And then where did it lead you from there?
I worked inside sales for about, I want to say 6 years, 5.5 years. And then my father and Arthur Kemper, our vice president, they promoted me to national director of sales.
That was recent. That was within the last year or so.
Yeah. When I met you on the last trip, so about 1.5 years ago. I was just promoted.
Wow. Nate's saying what? Talking to the mic.
Sorry, I'm looking both ways.
I told you it's kind of like a tennis match. You know, you gotta have a little bit of a lean on you.
I got you.
It's all right. You know, again, this is not the highest end studio.
It's a great studio.
Thank you. Yeah, it's 2-car.
If I lived here, I'd hang out in
storage.
this garage.
As you can tell, so you pull that down. That's a 100-inch screen. We just set up the projector, and we watch movies, and we're watching the Cubs.
Is this where you watch the Bears lose?
This, you know, if there's a season, this is probably where I'll watch the Bears lose. Thank you very much.
Come on, Tim. He's our customer. What the hell's wrong?
No, that's exactly right. This is where I'll watch the quarterback trial for the Chicago Bears, and we'll see who makes varsity and who makes JV.
Hey, you got Nick Foles, man. He helped out the Eagles. So.
Yeah, but I want to get Carson Wentz in there to start the season, and then let Nick Foles kind of carry it out. I don't think Mitchell Trubisky is going to do it, but we'll see. We'll see. So let's talk about what do you guys think of this Wilderness Trail?
It's really nice. It's got some sweetness. It's got a nice little kick, and I'm really enjoying it with this cigar. It's perfect.
Yeah. You guys started what I noticed with this before we dive really into the Wilderness Trail. It was interesting during the shutdown, right? Call the shutdown during COVID, about March when everything really started shutting down. One of the things I noticed, and we'll dive into this a little bit more in part 2, but it was interesting with you guys that I saw a different approach. A lot of people went to like Zoom meetings. A lot of people went to a little bit more of the social media, you know, from the cigar companies, from bourbon companies, from retailers. We were really active. We were trying to get people engaged the best we could because we didn't know what was going on. And you guys really started hammering home this YouTube channel on top of just videos on Facebook. I saw more Instagram activity. But one of the things I really noticed with this blend in particular, and I can kind of say from my viewpoint, and I think from a lot of people's viewpoint, there are people asking for the cigar, which is part of the success. Nicholas, you said that this is one of your biggest, if not the biggest launches.
Yes.
Which is ironic to be in business for almost 30 years. And you have a 10th, you have a 20th, you have some other amazing blends in the portfolio. But a reblend of a, 15-year-old?
Yeah, the 15, 20-year-old trademark.
15-year-old trademark.
Yeah.
Or a cigar that's been on the market for 15 years. But what I noticed was, and it was a great video, You weren't on it, but it was your father, and then who's the other gentleman that was on that video?
Arthur Kemper.
Yeah.
Arthur. And the two of them are sitting in I don't know if that's at the factory
Yes.
or at the office.
Yeah, at the office. Yep.
At the office. And they're sitting there, and I don't know if anyone's check this out on what's the YouTube channel? Just Perdomo Cigars.
Perdomo Cigars. Yeah.
Yeah, Perdomo Cigars.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Give them some love.
Thank you.
It was interesting. I'm watching this thing, and I know you guys are really bumping it up. And I know Janine is your mother.
Yes.
So Janine is also part of our Bourbon and BS community page, and you guys have your own page. So just the level of bumping everything up as far as awareness during all this stuff, it just went through the roof for you guys. And I remember watching that video with your dad and with Arthur.
Arthur, yes.
And they're sitting there in these two comfortable chairs, decked out behind them. Have you guys seen this video? Okay. So yeah, it's decked out behind them, just a whole humidor with all your beautiful, like you said, like, you open a box of Perdomo cigars. We at Tinder Box, we only have bins. You've seen it. So we can't take advantage of it, but you open the box and you flip down this really beautiful, like built-in shelf talker. So this whole wall really lit up, and these two guys there, looking pretty boss, I guess you could say. I don't know. I don't use that link. GQ. They look like they know what they're talking about. And as they're talking about it, and then Nick says, he starts describing, he's like, oh, like kind of like you do. I don't know if you got it from him or if it's just like something that runs in the family or in the company, but it's like, and the aromas that are filling this room right now. And I'm like watching this YouTube video on my laptop, or maybe it was my iPhone. Like, so it's like on a 5-inch screen. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I want to be in that room. I want to smoke this cigar. Like, I don't know why, when you got a guy like Nick Perdomo saying, the aromas just are really filling this room, and it's just intoxicating. I'm like, I believe this man, and I know it's not a sales pitch. That social presence has been so huge for you guys during this. It has been. I mean, we've taken. What's the strategy? Like, where'd you guys? You kind of came out of nowhere. Was this like a sitting around the conference table? And you're like, how are we going to do this?
Well, I mean, we had the opportunity. I know that people have been home, working from home, and so I think YouTube was the biggest platform where we were able to take advantage of the opportunity to get everyone, on one platform. And guys are looking at YouTube. I mean, we saw the viewership going up. I mean, it was spiked up. We couldn't believe it. So we took advantage of launching that brand, on YouTube and talking about it on YouTube. And I think that's a big thing, a big reason to our success, especially with this new release. And also, I got to definitely give credit to my dad. He really pushed it hard. My mother's done a lot with Facebook and Instagram. So my parents have, they're really big with social media. So.
Which is the opposite of what you hear from most families. That my parents are really active on social media.
Yeah, they are.
It's usually, oh yeah, my kids are more involved. You have a different role right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, but it's really cool to kind of see that. I did have a question here.
Sure.
Let me throw it up on the screen. So Ray Cheshire, he's watching. He's a regular viewer, a friend of ours. He says, are Perdomo doing any business in Vietnam, which is where he's at? There are a number of larger outlets for cigars today, and it is almost definitely a growing market. Are you guys, do you know if you're reaching out internationally?
Yeah, we are. I believe we do sell to Vietnam. The head of our international sales, Nelson Cuba, I'm pretty sure. I know that we've been doing some stuff with them. So yeah, we have been selling to Vietnam.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So Ray, check it out. He says, I don't like box press cigars. Got to try the blend though. Got to try the blend. This is, again, it's a soft box press.
Soft Cuban box press.
Soft Cuban. There you go. There you go. So with the Wilderness Trail, let me pull this back up while we're talking about this. It's a cool story. They're not as old in the market as you guys are, but they took an approach that is now being kind of, I would say, embraced by some others. And we've had some previous episodes, especially recently, where some of the guys that are starting these distilleries, guys and girls, they source their juice, they source their barrels while they're building their own distillery.
Okay.
These guys, on the other hand, they founded it in 2013. The thing is that they sat on it. They didn't have a product to sell. They gambled big time. They weren't sourcing or anything like that. They didn't release anything until 2018. So they did it 5 years later, 4 or 5 years later.
Like a micro.
No, they're full-blown distillery. But
Yeah.
what they did was they did it the traditional way, where they said, we are going to start barreling this, and we're going to wait on this product. We're not going to source it, just put Wilderness Trail on, You know, MGP is a big place that people source out of. That's one of the biggest ones we talked about a lot. But this is their genuine mash bill. This is their own distilled product. They came out of the gate strong.
It's excellent.
4 or 5 years later. So they did that. And this is what we're drinking tonight. They call it sweet mash on the side of it. It's the bourbon whiskey. It's bottled in bond. And kind of a review for everyone. This is a single barrel, but bottled in bond means it's 100 proof. This is something that goes back historically and 4 years, as Nate says in the background there. So they did it truly the old school way. And this is, as it says, I like it. They don't really hide a whole lot on there. They say, so this is made from locally sourced grains. They're in Danville, Kentucky, from an old traditional mash bill of 64% corn, 24% wheat, and 12% malted barley. And then it says on here, I read a couple different things that they're switching over to the column still, which is what we talked about last week with Traverse City. But it says copper pot distilled from a single fermented batch using our sweet mash process, put in the barrel at 110 proof. So they're putting it in as usual, a little bit higher. And then once they proof it down a little bit to 100, but it's a little bit higher wheat. And that's why this is called the wheated barrel or the wheated bourbon.
Okay.
So, but it is, I like the personal touch, if you can see on there, Nicholas and Tim. So it's bottle 164 out of 235. They've got on the front which barrel it is, and I don't know what the code means, but I mean, there's a lot of these like kind of finer touches, beautiful bottle.
A lot of quality control.
Yeah. A lot of quality control. So you've got limited product, but I mean, they came out with this, and I don't even know what what's the suggested retail, Dustin, you know, in the state of Ohio? Can you look that up here real quick? I want to say it's around 50. So it's not the least expensive bottle, but again, doing all the things you're talking about, that they went all in.
Yeah, there was somebody similar I know out of Kentucky. He used to be the owner of Party Sorts, a guy named John Stiles. He owns a company called New Riff, and they're absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, I got a bottle myself, and it's really good stuff.
So New Riff, it's interesting. We've talked about that in the past, and what I would find interesting. So it's $47.99 in Ohio, which is a state-controlled liquor agency. So it can go up and down. I saw it for like 56 and stuff online. But with New Riff, it's interesting. When you're doing the single barrel game, and this is my first time sipping on this. Nate, I know you've had it. Dustin, have you had it? He has not had it. Anyone else in the garage had it? So anyone out there that's had this maybe more than once, what I like about the single barrel, and I also don't like about the single barrel process, is that there is no – you need more? Oh, you need some. Oh, well, cheers.
Enjoy it.
Yeah. And so with New Riff, it's interesting. I've talked about it before. They have their bourbon, they have their rye, and then they have their single barrel. And what was interesting is that I've had, and I know it's not as much as a lot of the bourbon drinkers out there, but I've had 3 different bottles of single barrel from New Riff. I really enjoyed 1 out of the 3. The first 2 times I'm like, I can appreciate what they're doing. This is a good bottle. Not really for me. And then I think it was when we had Ryan Newman on, he brought a bottle, and I forget the years. You'd have to listen back. We'll try to find, if you guys are interested, we can look back, or if you scan back what episodes. But it was basically on their bottles, they say barreled and then bottled, and they have like, fall of 2014, bottle of this. And that was just lights out, a fantastic bottle. So the issue, and that's what I'd be interested, is to try another one that's got a different barrel number on there.
Right.
Is how different they are.
The consistency.
You're not going to have the same product. This is not one of those everyday, like it's not your blends. It's not going to be the bottles that you're going to be. Every time I grab a Wilderness Trail bottle and bond wheated, it's going to taste the same, which is obviously something that's tough for you guys to do in the cigar industry, is that not really quality control, but it's more of the taste profile,
the consistency of it.
It's consistency, because that's the difference. When you grab a bottle that's not a single barrel, and even some people that grab a bottle that's single barrel, they're going to expect the same thing every time. You're like, I liked it better the last time. I think they really let themselves slip, or they're like, this is much better, like I did with New Riff. With you guys, that's got to be an issue where you're like, all right, so this new blend, Tim sells an account, the first 4 boxes of different sizes, I got 4 of this, 4 of this, 4 of that, and then they're on back order, because you guys are now making, you're continuously doing this. And I know that's not the goal, is to be on back order, but if you have a big product that booms out of the gate, it's just it's a good problem to have, I guess.
Right.
So when you have that, how do you guys, as my questions, how do you guys take this cigar that I'm smoking right now, that in 2 years it's as close as that I remember?
Well, it takes years to come out with a brand, and it takes years to come up with blends. So for us, it's all about the inventories of tobacco. So Perdomo Cigars were vertically integrated. Outside of our Connecticut shade wrappers that we buy from Ecuador, from ASP, we grow all of our sun-grown wrappers, Habano wrappers, and then we grow all of our Maduro wrappers. So with the inventories, with our warehouses of aged tobaccos, we can keep our blends very consistent. So that's really what it is, the inventories of aged tobaccos that we've had and we put aside for many years. And giving credit again to my dad. Quick story: my dad, remember one RTDA or IPCPR. My dad said, "Hey, ASP's coming. I'm going to buy a container of Connecticut shade wrappers."
What's ASP?
ASP is they're a broker. They're based out of Miami, but they grow tobacco. They have their own tobacco company, and they grow Connecticut shade wrappers. So pretty much every brand that you carry has Connecticut shade wrappers from ASP. They're monstrous. And so I remember we're buying a container of wrapper tobacco from them, and my dad said, "I need one container." And he went into the meeting. He ended up buying two. And I said, "Dad, you only need one. Why would you buy two containers?" He says, "Son, that's like those warehouses with those tobaccos. That's like the bank for us. That's money, and you know what? We're going to need it eventually, and that's how we're going to keep consistency within all the lines. So that's for Champagne in the future. It's for Habano, Connecticut, 20th anniversary, Connecticut. So Lot 23. So that's really what it's all about. It's about the inventories."
No, I like that bank reference there. You're like, well, the interest rates are down right now, and I think that we're going to really have a home run here. So I'm going to take a little bit more out of the bank right now. That's interesting.
So,
Tim, what do you think of this cigar? I'm going to put you on the spot as you sit next to Nicholas. I know Janine's watching, maybe Nick.
No, the cigar is awesome.
No pressure. You got to
better say it's good.
Mic, so they can hear you.
So it's
what they say, what
solid,
you say.
medium full cigar. Has a ton of nice spice to it. Also, you get a nice sweetness as well with this cigar. I think they did really well with the blend. And, this is approachable for pretty much any smoker outside of somebody that really likes something really, really mild. But, I think even the mild smoker can grab this and be satisfied with it.
Yeah, I think with you guys having the success with the champagne, this isn't like something like, oh, if you like the champagne, you're going to like the sun-grown, you're going to like the Maduro.
Right.
But I do believe this is kind of that teetering point. If you smoke typically the champagnes, you would enjoy this, but you might go back to the champagne because it has, like you said, medium full. It's deceiving. I feel like as I've smoked a handful of these, is that I smoke it as it goes through the cigar, I feel like it builds. I don't know if that was the intent or if this was, there's a lot of notes there. There's a lot of complexity to the blend, which is why I think you're going to have success with it. It's not a one-note cigar that just goes straight through.
Thank you. Yeah, we wanted to build that complexity throughout that cigar. And, it's like a great scotch or a great bourbon, when it's really well-aged and, it's like when you drink a great bourbon or scotch where you drink it, it's so smooth and it's delicious. There's no bite to it. But then kind of when you get up, you kind of stand up and you wobble a little bit. You go, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah. We want a nice cigar that isn't overpowering. It's hard to make a very mild cigar out of Nicaragua. The grounds are real rich,
true.
Real thick tobacco. So, we try to make a smooth cigar as possible with as much flavor as possible. So that's really the goal for us.
And I think we'll get to the ratings here in a little bit, but I got to say this Wilderness Trail, it's got sweetness that goes well with it.
Oh, yeah.
What do you guys think?
Oh, I agree. I think it's delicious.
Do you need more, Tim?
I know Janine's watching it. I'm only going to try. I got to get Nicholas home.
Yeah, you're driving, dude.
Well, we got some time, so if you want to get one more in or if you're going to have another one later for part 2, we got to have at least 2.
All right, I'll have one more now.
One more now?
Yes, but
right.
I promise I'll get him home.
He's an Irish boy. He can do it.
So you're getting him in trouble. But yeah, I mean, this one, it's just a nice bottle. What do you guys think in the audience? Nate, you want to grab that mic? What are you guys thinking out there? Anyone smoking the cigar? Anyone, drinking the whiskey? What do you guys get from it based on what we're talking about here?
I think the Wilderness Trail, for me, actually brings out a little bit more of the spice in the cigar up front, and it makes that spice kind of hang on my palate a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Because the whiskey itself has a very short finish to it. Little sweet up front, little spice as it rolls back, but very, very short finish.
Yeah.
But it brings out more of the spice in the cigar for me, kind of overpowers a little bit of the sweetness, but it makes the finish of the cigar last longer on my palate.
I think both are. I mean, for me, I think this is like they're just the finish between the two of them are just
I want to buy
going
a
on.
bottle.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good.
It's a nice bottle.
It is.
It goes really well with this.
And it was
It
a
does.
gift bottle. If I'm
It was
not
a
mistaken.
gift bottle. Yeah. So thanks to John Dixon. John, who was in the garage 2 weeks ago, I believe. Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago. So one of our viewers, he's here local, and he came. Shannon knows him. He's a customer of Shannon's, I believe. So John came in the shop late last week, and he's like, "Man, I appreciate everything. It was awesome being there. I hope I'm invited back." I'm like, "You're welcome. The garage is open, so you can come by anytime." And he came in with this bottle, and he's like, "I felt so guilty coming in empty-handed," which is the way of the cigar and bourbon industry.
Yes,
so
it is.
he's just like, "I just brought this for you guys." I was like, "Well, it looks like something we're going to do on the podcast. I appreciate that."
Thank you,
So,
John. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Dustin, how about you?
Yeah, so the cigar, I get a lot of that kind of woody oakiness with a little bit of spice. Kind of sits on the back of my palate. A lot of really great flavors with it too. Not anything too overpowering. The whiskey, I get a lot of sweetness, fruity notes off the nose and the initial taste. Putting the two together, I kind of get that like toasted marshmallow sweetness from the whiskey. The fruit notes kind of mellow out with the two, but I think the two together pair very well. You get that kind of spice with the sweet. You get that really nice counterbalance. Nicholas, like you pointed out, the filler and the binder, you pull a lot more sweeter notes with the cigar to kind of counterbalance the sun-grown spice from the wrapper. I think the two together really marry each other very well.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so we got so John Dixon is watching tonight, and he says, "Enjoy, guys. My pleasure." I threw it up on the screen. And then Freddie Burt says, "I haven't had the Wilderness Trail, but I plan on giving it a try. I'm smoking the Sun-Grown with some E.H. Taylor single barrel, and it's fantastic." So that's the other thing I'll say about this cigar. You know, sometimes people will come into the shop, or they'll ask you guys, what would really go well with bourbon, or what would go well with whiskey, and
All
now
the
you're
time.
diving into like, well, what are you drinking, all that stuff. The nice thing about a cigar like this, and I'm not trying to pump it up because you're sitting next to me and Nick and Janine are watching, this is literally one of those cigars that I think would go with a lot of different bottles, a lot of different bourbons, different scotches, like you had mentioned, Nicholas. I think it would even go with some rums.
Yeah.
We had what was the mezcal, even the tequila mezcal, that type of a drink as
Yeah, that's
well. A
what my
little
parents
smokiness.
like.
They like the mezcal.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
they like.
so I think that would go really well with this. It's just one of those kind of middle of the road. I agree with you, Tim. It's medium full, but it's something that has a lot of flavor and it's not overpowering, but it's also going to stand up to, even if we had a barrel proof out here, I think it would, which we featured the last couple of weeks. I think this would go well with either High Bank, which we had, and then Traverse City. Yeah, the High Bank double oaked, and then we had the Traverse City barrel proof last week. I think this thing would stand up really well with that. So what's next for both of you guys as we start navigating through the new norm? I also noticed, I was watching the news today. I'm not going to get into it.
Okay.
And I
Thank
know
you.
that was a drinking game with Spencer, who's been on the podcast. He's like, yeah, every time Steve says I'm not going to get political, drink, and then he gets political. But it was interesting. The not necessarily that, but I saw today, like, the CDC is changing some of their guidelines for travel, as far as the quarantine stuff. And then it was like the testing and all that stuff. We're getting into what they say the new normal, but I think we're navigating hopefully on like kind of towards the future where it's not this new normal
Right.
that we've now become you just got to get used to it. No, but I think for you guys, how far out is Perdomo forecasting? 12, 18 months? Are we talking I know with tobacco, you have to go further out, but as far as releases, are we talking 3 years? What are we looking at on the horizon for Perdomo cigars?
Well, I think we're looking to definitely release some new brands, some stuff that's pretty different from our current portfolio.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with what's going on with the COVID, but
Business as usual.
Business as usual. Still shaking hands, still hugging all my customers. I love them. It's hard not to. But
spray it down afterwards.
Yeah, I wash my hands. So I'm a germaphobe, so it never changed. But I mean,
not a good time to be a germaphobe.
Yeah, but no, I get it. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna release some new things in the future. We have the inventories of tobacco to do it, kind of like what we were talking about. So, we're in a really great position. We're real excited for the future.
Good. We did have another question here. I'm gonna throw it up here. Let's see if I can find it here. I gotta get a bigger screen, man. I gotta get a bigger screen. Ray asked something here. Basically, he smokes. Oh, I can't find it. He smokes a lot of Hoya de Nicaragua.
Okay.
So there's been some comments on the feed here that that you guys talked about. It's Nicaraguan-based company, all Nicaragua tobacco. In this, he says, I've been smoking a lot of Hoya de Nicaragua, which I really enjoy. How do Perdomos compare? So again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I am putting you on the spot.
I think Hoya de Nicaragua. I think it's a very nice cigar. It's just I think they're very powerful. That's what they're known for. They're known for the powered type of tobacco, which we use as well from Esteli. But I think we're a little old school in terms of the old Cuban-esque type of way where we really work the tobaccos. Once we cure those tobaccos, we ferment tobacco. Just like kind of how you do barbecue, we do it low and slow.
Mm-hmm.
We really our goal is to make the most balanced finesse type of cigar and have the most complexity, the most amount of full flavored, but we want the strength. We don't want it to kick you in the butt. The whole thing is, we can make a cigar that'll make your eyes water, but that's not really the goal. We want you to be able to say, oh, I enjoyed this cigar. I'm going to have one in about 30 minutes, not where you smoke a powerful cigar and all of a sudden you're like, man, I'm done. I'm smoked out. But I mean, great cigars, it just depends. Smoking's subjective. It all depends on what you like. So
absolutely. Got Avi up there. He said he went through a box of 10th Anniversary Maduro, and it's phenomenal. Get it while you can if you're a Maduro fan.
Thank you, Avi.
Avi, I'm curious. Throw it on the page there. What size did you smoke? One of the ones that surprised me, you guys came out with a Vitola of the Figurado.
Yeah, Figurado size. Yep.
But it's not. So we got the cigars in, and what I was shocked. So we're pricing it out. Brian's rattling off as I'm punching it in. Brian Joyce, the owner of Tinder Box at Easton, and he's going through the invoice and everything. And so we're like, all right, so the Epicure is this, the Robusto is this, the Gordo is this, and the Figurado, and he throws out a lower price point. I'm like, wait, hang on, what is that right? And he's like, it's actually pretty small. It's a beautiful shape, and we're flying through it. What is the Vitola of that cigar?
So when you look at it, it's kind of deceiving. It's a 4 3/4 by 56. So really, it's 4 3/4 at the tip. It's 4 at the head of the cigar. It's 49. Then it goes to about a 60, and it tapers down to a 56. So it has a very nice, unique shape to it, a nice Figurado shape, and it has a nice slight box press to it. It's a really nice. So guys who like smaller ring gauges, it's a nice cigar. It's in the 40s, just below 50. So it's a great shape, very unique.
It is, and with that the length, it's a shorter smoke, but it isn't like tiny.
No.
Now with the band, it looks tiny because you guys have that beautiful band on it that one of our guys, Gary, who's been on the podcast before, he's already come in and cleaned us out of at least a box and a half of them. And he's like, yeah, I love the cigar. He's like, but as soon as I cut it, I have to take the band off.
Yeah, it's a big band. It's a big band.
Which is fine. I mean, it's one of those things. As soon as you light it up, you take the band off, which is a shame because it's gorgeous. But it is a very cool size. Are those the 4 sizes?
Well, we have 6 sizes altogether.
Yeah, 6. So what are the other 2? Churchill?
So we got Figurado, Robusto, Epicure, which is Toro. We got Churchill, Torpedo, and Super Toro, which is our 60.
Okay. Oh, yeah. We do have the 6x60 there at the shop as well. We don't. What's the size of the Torpedo?
7 by 54.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same as the Churchill.
Yeah.
With a figured tip. Yeah.
It's a big Torpedo.
Yeah, that's an old school. My dad made that Torpedo in the 90s. We've had it ever since in that line. And
Avi says he smoked the Epicure. What's the significance for everyone, and myself included? Why call it an Epicure instead of a Toro? Is that just a more traditional term?
Well, really, Toro is a 6 by 50.
Yeah.
So an Epicure is bigger. it's a 54.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, in Perdomo Lot 23, it's a 6x50. So we call that the Toro.
Interesting.
So,
We do. We have some of those on the table there, which I appreciate you guys bringing.
enjoy them.
Where are we at here on time here for this first part? Well, I mean, I guess we can talk more about what's going on with Perdomo when we get to the SWOT analysis, SWOT talk, and everything else. But is there anything else you guys want to share about the cigar?
I mean, it's
The sun-grown. I know we got the Maduro still, but the sun-grown.
I mean, for all Perdomo smokers and even guys who smoke different type of cigars, I think it's definitely worth a try. It's something totally different from anything in our portfolio. It's it's just a great cigar. It's got a lot of sweetness, very aromatic, very complex type of cigar, like how Steve was saying. And it's definitely worth a shot. It's definitely worth a try. And thank you to all those retailers and consumers who've been purchasing these cigars and repurchasing them. We appreciate it. So thank you.
No, absolutely. Tim, anything else on this cigar since?
Yeah, I mean, all I'll say is, if you're looking for the new blends and you're on Facebook, we have Perdomo Cigar Group. Always ask, let us know what area you're in, and one of our reps or somebody else will say, hey, this person has it in this area. If you're in Columbus, Tinder Box Easton just reordered them, so they should have more boxes on the way. So
Fantastic. All right, so we do have up here Peter. Do you know Peter? I'm going to mess up his last name here. Speranza.
Great man.
So, yeah. He smoked 5 boxes of Maduro 10th so far.
I love you, Pete.
Keep buying more. He also asked, Nicholas, will the bourbon you're drinking right now, the
Yes.
Wilderness Trail, taste good in a Godfather? Explain to everyone, I don't even know what a Godfather is.
Okay, so a Godfather is
Like how you
so you could
sets
take
down the cigar to...
you could take either Scotch or you could take bourbon, and you take 2 ounces and you take about an ounce and a half ounce to an ounce of Deserono.
Okay.
So it has that almondy, that sweetness. So if you drink something, a little, with a little spice, like a little bourbon that's a little bit more spicy, a little less sweet, or a Scotch, you put a little bit of that Deserono in, and you mix it real well with a good amount of ice. It's like that's one of my favorite drinks.
Wow.
Try
Sounds
it.
good.
Try
Well,
it.
yeah. Now I have to, I think.
Yes.
I feel like.
You have to tell me what you think.
I will. You're going to have to actually share that, or Tim will, someone on the Bourbon and BS community page. You'll have to throw out that recipe,
Okay.
Yeah.
and then we'll get some feedback on it
Yeah.
and see who wants to throw them up there as far as, pictures and everything else. I did have, again, this is a great question. So I talked to you about this a year and a half ago when I met you. It is well known in the industry, for those that haven't had the pleasure of meeting your father, Nick. The memory, we talked about this is something that you guys talk about all the time because it is astounding. The name face recognition of your father is unmatched, and no offense, I just don't think you're going to get to his level.
If I can get half to my dad's level, I'll be super happy in life, just in general.
Yeah.
Forget the industry, just
in
in
a lot of
general.
different ways.
If I could be half the man my dad is,
There you
I'm
go.
fine.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
it's a tall
I'll sign a
goal.
contract with God right now.
There you go. But yeah, I had a story that was similar, and Avi, he actually went and toured your factory down there, and we talked about it because he remembered. He's like, yeah, I'm here, in Columbus, Ohio. I frequent the Tinder Box at Easton. Your dad was like, oh, how's Brian and all this stuff, and it was just boom, boom, boom. I had a similar experience at Cigar Fest back in, 2015 or something like that. I had a Smoking 10 event t-shirt on, and I was with some customers that brought me out there, and they loved it because I got them behind the table at the Perdomo booth, at some other booths. And
Thank you.
first thing was, I talked, said to Nick, and I'd met him only once before. I don't know if he remembered me as much, but as soon as I said I'm from, Columbus, Ohio, Tinder Box at Easton, he's like, oh yeah, Brian, how's Brian doing? His wife, is she doing okay? I know she was going through some health issues and everything. And I was like, yeah, everyone's good. Like, everyone's good. So Avi says, Nicholas, what kind of brain cell training are you doing to memorize people's names like your father memorizes?
Well, my dad actually taught me the secret.
Oh,
When I remember Steve from over a year and a half ago, I said, Steve, he wore, he was wearing a blue. I can remember Steve. He's the guy who wore the big looking bodybuilder. He's wearing the blue vest that he wore
cardigan.
when I went with Andy Verhaeg to his store, and I don't forget. And I take things, I take little things, and I put it with the person. So I remember Steve.
You're working on it.
He's the bodybuilder who wears the blue vest.
Just trying not to get old, or getting old slowly.
He is a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
It's just a tight T-shirt. You just keep making your own T-shirts, and you buy the ones that you like the way they fit, and everyone else is screwed. I don't care. What was that? What was that, Nate? All right,
I
so
gave up on that, man.
let's do the ratings here. The end of part one here. I threw up on the screen what we're drinking. I will start with let's say guest of honor, Nicholas. So we do it here where we do out of 10. So out of 10, 10 being the highest. You rate the whiskey, you rate the cigar we're smoking, and then you rate the pairing. So 3 different ratings, but just kind of, if you want to give reasons, you can. If you want to just spit out the answer, you can. Whatever you feel. So let's start with, I threw it up there, Wilderness Trail single barrel. Bottle and bond, the weeded as I'm calling it, because that's what it kind of is referred to as. So with the featured drink, Wilderness Trail, what are you thinking out of 10?
I'm gonna give it a 10, and I'm also gonna give the cigar a 10 because the truth of the matter is this is the best bourbon I've had in a while. But also, and my dad's mentioned it as a kid. He goes, I had this cigar by myself one time, just randomly. He said, I've had this cigar one time. It's not as good as it is right now because I'm sitting with good people.
Yeah.
I'm sitting, when you're in good company, I think that really, and it's true, I think it's psychological. I think it affects the way, your drink tastes, your cigar tastes. So I'm happy to be with you guys. So, I mean, the whiskey's great. The cigar's great. Thanks,
All right, so
I'm enjoying it.
no,
I really give it a 10.
All right, you give the whiskey
I really
a 10.
do. I really do.
That's high praise. So
I really think it's
Wilderness
awesome.
Trail, if
I'm
you're
buying a
listening,
bottle.
you got the Perdomo family, getting in on the whiskey here. The cigar, you got to give it out of a 10. This is, this has got your family name on it, but I mean,
I give it a 10, but the truth of the matter is too, this was a blend that I really pushed. This is something that we really, my dad and, Art, we really pushed to have a cigar like this. We love the tobaccos from Jalapa. Jalapa, the yields aren't as great. A couple years ago, we bought a farm, so we were able to really work the soils, and we were able to really put a lot of emphasis into it. So our yields have been better. So now we're able to put, upwards of 60 to 65% of tobaccos from Jalapa into a cigar. Like
when did you buy the farm?
We bought it about 3 years ago. It's after my mother, Finca Janine. So that's something that, we're real proud of.
Yeah, as you should be. As you should be. And the pairing out of 10?
10.
You're an easy judge.
I really think it's great.
You're an easy judge.
I'm going to have some more.
You feel free.
Thank you.
I think I might. You're going to pass the bottle while Tim does this. Tim, you're on the spot now, all right? So now start with the whiskey.
Yeah, so the whiskey, I'm not a huge bourbon guy. By no means am I a bourbon connoisseur.
What is your drink of choice?
I'm a beer guy.
Tell me what.
I thought, good right there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a beer guy. I switched from, IPAs back to Yingling and Miller Lite.
Or Miller Lite. That's a fine Pilsner beer right there.
But no, overall, this bourbon, I would give it a solid 8. As soon as it goes in, right on the tongue, it's has a nice sweetness with it, and then going down, it has a nice spice. But yeah, I would give the drink an 8.
Okay, and the cigar.
Cigar, it's getting a 10.
Come on. God.
Come on, you put me on the spot, Steve.
No, all right. So I'm going to turn off the cameras and Nicholas earmuff it real quick. All right. So Tim, what do you think?
No, I'm giving it a 10.
All right.
And, obviously, I'm hearing from all my customers that they absolutely love this cigar, and the cigar is going to be a huge success. So yeah, I definitely give the Perdomo Reserve Sungrown a 10.
Bonus.
Wait, we get bonuses based on this? Am I in on this? No, I'm not on payroll. The pairing. So you got an 8 on the bourbon. You have a 10 on the cigar.
Yeah.
How about the pairing?
I think the pairing.
Being not a whiskey guy, so normally you're smoking cigars with different beers, correct?
Yeah.
That's a drink of choice.
Correct. No, overall the pairing, I think the pairing is great. I would give it definitely an 8 as well. I think the sweetness of the drink and the well-balanced cigar goes very well together.
Okay. It's high ratings.
What about you, Steve?
Thank you. Whiskey. So with the whiskey, this is different. I mean, they definitely did not mislead anyone, I feel like, with the sweet mash, with doing this the traditional way. I can respect what they're doing with this bottle. Came in at, what was it, $48, so just shy, let's call it 50 for the bottle. So $50 for a fifth in the state of Ohio, which, once again, for those that are not in Ohio, we are a state-controlled liquor agency. So you're probably going to find this, I'd imagine, wherever it's distributed, 45 to 60 to be safe, I'd say. And they have some other offerings. Now, I will say that this bottle makes me want to drink some of their other stuff.
Yeah.
But I would definitely I'd give this whiskey, for all intents and purposes, somewhere between 8 and 9. I think this is different. If you're looking for your typical bottled and bond bottle, if you're used to drinking some other bourbons, that you have some favorites, this may not hit what you're used to. But with the pairing, and I need to get another bottle just so I can drink it on its own, maybe as a nightcap or just, on a normal basis. But there's a lot of sweetness. The fact that it's weeded, I feel like there's a lot of that there. It's not as corn heavy in the flavor that I'm used to with some bourbons. But yeah, I definitely 8 to 9. What was that, Dustin? Yeah. Yeah, it's sweeter than a lot of the Wellers, is what he says. The Weller Antique 107. Yeah, and it's got some great reviews out there and great awards. And I do want to try the Rise, Dustin's saying, yeah.
I like this better than Pappy.
There you go.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, Pappy's just too harsh.
The cigar, I will say, I don't think I've rated 110, and it's cute because it's a 10th anniversary.
I didn't even think about that.
See, you gotta get you guys got to get in that marketing head.
Yeah, no kidding.
Obviously, you got to really work on that.
10 out of 10.
No, yeah, 10th anniversary, 10 out of 10. I'm gonna give it a 9, a strong 9, leaning towards 10. This is, when it comes to Perdomo cigars, and I have enjoyed a lot of Perdomo cigars.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the 20th. That was something that, in fact, when I first started in the business, I wasn't even full time, and I started just helping out. I was doing something else full time, and I helped out Brian as a favor. And this was the second event back in probably 2012 was when it was launched.
Yeah.
And Nick Perdomo was in Columbus. I think it was probably the last time he was in Columbus.
Yeah, I think it was like 2012.
Yeah, it was around that time when you guys launched the 20th anniversary. And so that one always held true. I really like the Sungrown of that. The Maduro was good. The Sungrown in that was fantastic. I think this medium range that you guys hit with some of your blends is it needs to be recognized more, I feel like, on some of it. I would not be surprised if this one starts landing on some top 25s as we round out the year. And I think that is maybe the goal, as always. You want it to be well received. But all things considered, between the marketing, between the launch, like you said, is huge. And just smoking the cigar, this is one that I have enjoyed. I think I've smoked 5 so far. I've enjoyed it every time.
Thank you.
So that's where I'm saying it's a 9, all intents and purposes. We didn't even talk about the MSRP on this.
Yeah, it's between $7 and $9.
And that's silly. So in Ohio, with the tobacco tax, you're looking at probably 8 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's gonna tick it up a little bit, but when you're smoking it, I will say this definitely punches outside of its weight class as far as the MSRP.
Thank you.
This is something that matches even in your own portfolio. And I know that's kind of the Perdomo way. You guys don't have a whole lot out there that's in that $15 to $20 range. I see that coming up in the future, just based on some of the success, some of the age you're doing with the tobacco and everything else. I would not be surprised, and thankfully they're not listening to me. They're listening tonight, but they're not listening to anything I really have to say when I say this could be priced at easily a $12 Toro.
Thank you.
All things considered on the market. I don't know if anyone else out there, I mean, you see these people that are out there just smoking boxes of them.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason they're able to do that, obviously, is because of price point. That helps out when you're smoking it. But I think you guys have given us a steal. And like I said, don't listen too closely and raise the price on everyone. But I think this is absolutely a steal.
Thank you.
So the pairing's up there at a 9 too. This is one of my favorite pairings because of that. We keep hitting that sweetness. This is not a sweet cigar. This is not something that you're going to smoke and you'll be like, oh, it's sweet tipped or anything like that. But it's got that kind of hitting. You hits your tongue on the outside, and when you're drinking this bourbon, it just fires everything up. And I truly believe that this is one that if you guys are able to get your hands on the 10th anniversary, the new blend. Again, this is we call it red.
Yeah, a red.
It's a reddish band on there. And you get the Wilderness Trail, and there's a little confusion because they're all, I think, single barrel at this point, but that's a kind of a yellowish label on there as far as the Wilderness Trail. If you guys can get your hands on both the cigar and also this bottle, this would be a nice pairing for you to have in your personal humidor and personal bar. Or if you're at a bar somewhere and you're smoking on a patio, or if you're at a cigar bar, if you guys are listening in states that allow that, if you light this cigar up, look behind the bar and look for that kind of yellowish Wilderness Trail, or ask for the yellow, I'll call it the yellow Wilderness Trail. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. I truly don't. So as we round out part one, I do want to thank our sponsors. I first of all want to thank you guys. I want to thank the Perdomo family and the company for you guys bringing these cigars, coming to Columbus to sit in a. You're sweating a little bit, Nicholas.
You jinxed me, man.
I didn't jinx you. I'm saying you're smoking a cigar and you're drinking
well,
bourbon.
I think this is really what's doing it.
You know, it amps up the temp a
Probably
bit.
getting
You
a
know,
little red,
everyone runs a little hotter when you're doing bottled and bond. And where are we at now?
That don't matter, man. I'm joining. I'll unbutton the extra button.
8:45 in Columbus, Ohio. In August, it's 84 degrees right now.
With a real feel of 99.
Real feel at 99. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for being here. I also want to thank, first and foremost, as we round this out, the Patreon page. I've said it before. This is what helps us do this. You guys have kind of seen, it's not the most fancy studio or anything like that, but over the quarantine side, we really kind of up the game as far as technology, so we could do some remote stuff, which we hadn't done for almost 2 years. So patreon.com/bourbonandbs podcast. There are now tiers. Like I said, you can get these t-shirts, very breathable, even in 90-degree weather. That's not why I'm sweating. Very comfortable. And it has our slogan on it, which is something I came up while drinking, which is pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. And so I appreciate everyone out there. But yeah, we have $5 tier, $10 tier, and $25 tier. And there's descriptions on all of that stuff. We have some bonus stuffs for each of those tiers. And you can actually contribute all you want. So those are the minimums for each of the tiers. And also Tinder Box at Easton. This is how it all kind of came together. Everyone actually in the garage, a lot of the listeners out there, but not all of them, are definitely part of that community. And it actually extends into the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook, which we've got 1,100 members, which is fantastic. It's growing. We're happy to have everyone out there and growing the conversation beyond the podcast. Altitus USA, we've got, like I said, some Romeos here, but I think we're going to stick with Perdomo since we are very, very gracious to have you guys. I'm very, very happy to have you guys here as I'm sweating. And then also BS Cigar Company, which is something that is a pride and joy of us. That's where the Bourbon and BS comes from, the BS part. The gold and silver is in stock, so check that out. You can contact BS Cigar Company at gmail.com or Tinder Box or through the podcast, and we'll be happy to get some out there to you. Nick Fox, shout out to you in New Jersey. We appreciate your support. He just upped his Patreon contribution every month, which is fantastic. And I just shipped him a bundle of the golds along with his T-shirt. So we appreciate that after the post office snafu. But his package actually went to Idaho. And then the package we wanted to send to Idaho, got the post office, put the labels on wrong. But we know both of them, and they support us, and they shipped them back to each other, and I had to reimburse them. But that's all good. So, guys, cheers to part one. We're going to get into the SWOT analysis in part two. I'm really interested to see where this goes. Cheers.
Cheers, my friend.
Gentlemen, ladies out in the audience, not you guys in the garage. Gentlemen, ladies, thank you very much. Stay tuned to part two here after this short intermission. Stay with us live.
Wasn't Janine the top poster on the community page?
She was. Yeah, Janine, she's the top poster on the community page.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this last week.
She's a monster.
She's a monster. You guys need a break? You need to hit the restroom?
Do you mind if I use the restroom?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys, someone to show either side of the house or there's the hall bathroom would be great. Do you mind?
Sweating, man.
Sweat.
It's hot. You want a paper towel to wipe down? You need a
Sweat.
washcloth? Just everything else.
Everything else.
Bobby Hirschman said you need to get a phone book to sit on.
Oh, Jesus.
Short, he's just as short as me.
We're gonna donate a booster seat for you.
Oh, God. I do want to throw this out there during the intermission, guys. This is not going to be part of the audio podcast, but I appreciate we're over 30 viewers right now. Share it. If you guys have any questions, we're going to get into part 2 here. And it's nice having these guys in the garage. We had the little bit of a hiatus from some of the travelers in the garage for a while, and it's good to have you guys a part of it, Tim and Nicholas. It's just really nice to have everyone here. I like to see that. But if you guys have any questions for everyone on the panel or for each other, definitely throw them out there. What's that? Yeah, Nick and Janine are on that same feed. For anyone listening, as we dive into part 2, and I'll re-explain this, but to kind of frame your questions, for those that aren't familiar with SWOT, SWOT, there were some of the things, and I'm not going to put it on the audio, but it's funny. When we have a guest, I was talking with some of these guys. You get Nicholas on, and I feel like anytime he's in front of the camera, the mic, or anyone's talking to him in the shop, it's all about legacy. It's all about filling shoes. It's all about this. I didn't want to have that interview. You know what I mean? I'm sure it'll come up. We've already talked about it a little bit, but I wanted to kind of make it more of an all-encompassing thing. You know, it's yes, Nicholas is the third. He's coming into the company. He's making strides. And Tim, you're newer with the company. I'm talking to Tim. He's off camera right now, standing up, which is fine. You're fine. Walk it off. But SWOT. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses are internal. Opportunities and threats are external. So when this is something that is commonly used in business, when you're looking at year end or forecasting for whatever period of time going forward, competitions or like sales competitions or store competitions. But this is something that it's a great way and a great tool to kind of get your mindset right and to really look at things internally and externally. So we'll frame that. So anyone that has any questions, Todd Boss says he's diving into part 2 with an AJ Enclave.
Back on.
We're not back. I mean, we're still live. Yeah, we just kind of roll through it. And then, so this is the intermission. This is where we're just talking. We got about 30 people listening still, but This is, again, the break. So if you need water or anything. Yeah, get some more. Yeah, while we have it. We might. Yeah, the small. That's what I'm saying. It's a little confusing the way they label their bottles.
And they have cask strengths too that I came across. I see all the barrel picks popping up.
Now you want to jump on the mic and so I can take a quick break and between the two of you and Dustin, just ask any questions to the audience. I don't know.
Tim, what's your favorite Perdomo?
My personal favorite is the Perdomo Sungrown Bourbon Barrel Age. That cigar has the right amount of spice, right amount of strength, and it's a well balanced cigar. So,
how long you been with Perdomo now?
So I started with Perdomo beginning of December. And I was lucky enough to go down to our factory in Nicaragua in February and experience the tour. Anybody out there that wants to come to our factory tour, we usually do it January to March. And, just reach out to our office, reach out to Juan. And, it's a great experience. You learn a ton. We got hands in the audience that want to go. But, reach out and it's a great experience.
How long you been in the industry? Because I know you've worked for other companies before. So how long total, or where'd you start out in the industry?
Yeah, so I got into the cigar business at 18. I got my start at Old Havana Cigar Company in Westchester, Pennsylvania. That's where I met the great man Bobby, who keeps. Yeah, and then. Worked there for about 3 years, and then I went and worked at Holt Cigars in Philadelphia. I'm originally born and raised in Philadelphia. And then worked there for a few years, and I went and worked for Ashton Cigars for 4.5 years. And then recently in December, I made the great choice, and now I work for a great company in Perdomo Cigars.
So what was it like being with Perdomo for only a few months and then have all this shit happen?
You know, Perdomo made it very easy for us, and we're thankful that we had the opportunity to continue to work during this whole pandemic. But also, I was only off the road for a little bit, but got right back on, and business has been great. So,
Nick, how did you guys adjust when all this stuff started going down in March? As a company, how did you guys handle it?
Well, in terms of on the sales, for sales, we had our salesmen reaching out via phone when all this started. So our guys were off the road for about 3-4 weeks, and depending on the states, in terms of the lockdowns, how severe that was. In Nicaragua, we never closed. We asked our workers, we said, hey, listen, if you guys want us to close, we'll close. If not, you let us know. And they told us, hey, we still have to pay the rent. We still have to pay the electricity. So we want to keep working. So we never stopped. We haven't missed a beat.
So you left it up to them, not you guys.
Well, we had our feeling. We knew we want. I mean, there were no cases. Everything in Esteli was fine. So, we wanted just to make sure, with our workers overall. But we had an idea. We knew what we wanted to do.
All right, before we get in there, I do want to say, Roberto Spoltor.
Yep, I know him.
He says, anyone reading the comments? So I scrolled back up when I sat back down. He said, strength, Timmy lifts. Weaknesses, Tim doesn't have any. Opportunities, Tim to send me more cigars. Threats, what I tell Tim when I want more cigars. It's aggressive.
When I tell you, I'm going to be the dartboard tonight.
It's fine. Anything for viewers. Yeah. Thanks, Tim.
He's one of the old Havana guys.
Philly strong.
Philly boys.
Yeah. Philly. All right, let's get started here for part 2 here. Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast. This is episode 133, part 2. This is kind of where we go beyond the BS. This is still talking cigars and whiskey, more just like smoking cigars and drinking whiskey while talking. The conversation tonight is SWOT, SWOT. This is something that I've used before in other podcast episodes where we get into things with business. We talk about things. This was just beat into my head with my previous career. And this was a year-end thing, or how you start a year when you're forecasting. This is something that it is a very valuable tool. And I've tried to expand this concept into other parts of my life, whether it be the business at hand, my own personal career, my own personal life. Sometimes when you're trying to frame a decision and you're trying to figure out, where you go from there, if you're at a crossroads personally, there's relationships. I mean, I know it's maybe not the most popular thing when you're like kind of dealing with even like personal relationships, friends or romantic, that you're like, all right, let's just start writing shit down. Let's look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But this is a useful tool for those on the audio. Before we get into it, I do want to thank our sponsors, Tinder Box at Easton, Altadis USA, and Bourbon and BS. BS Cigar Company. And then also Bourbon and BS, the Patreon page, patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. This is a way you guys can support us. But the support has been tremendous, not only from the listeners, but also from Tinder Box at Easton, as well as Altadis and BS Cigar Company. So thank you very much. That's what keeps us going, and also the viewers. This is something we started as a hobby, and now it's turned into a little bit bigger thing, which we appreciate. Awesome. That makes us keep doing it. So again, 133 episodes in, got a great support team, great guests, Dustin Bovey, Nate Hale, Jake Sanders for a long time. I took 1 week off. No, there was only 1 week to do a podcast because of the snowstorm. I took 2 weeks off. One when I was in the DR, and there was an episode that I wasn't on. So I've done 132 episodes. We took 1 week off because there was a level 2, I think. Between about 3:00 in the afternoon and 5:00 here in Columbus, Ohio. So I could have done it because I have to. That was we probably should have done another Valentine's Day. Yeah, Sean, who's in the audience, he's knocking on my door. I'm sitting there, I think, eating pizza. He's like, "We're not doing it tonight." I'm like, no, man.
Yeah.
He walks over with his hood up and everything else. So Bobby Hirschman, since he started watching, he just threw it out there. He watches every show, so I appreciate it. Peter says, put a link up to support. Let me throw that up there for those that don't know the Patreon. I'll throw it up on the screen there. So that, again, you get this T-shirt. If you do the $5, you get it after 6 months. If you do the $10 tier, you get it after 3. If you do the 25, I'll send it out to you that first month. And then, again, you can put anything you want in there. We had a fantastic one-time contribution from Victoria, which was a large amount of money, it's huge, which we appreciate. It's just the sportsman support has been overwhelming, which I can appreciate. She did a one-time, donation or contribution, and then canceled it pretty much immediately after it went through, which is the way you can do a one-time contribution. So what do we got here? It's just talk among Bobby and Roberto, which is another fun part. If you guys are listening to the audio, this is a time where I can mention every Wednesday night we do this live on Facebook and YouTube. So you guys can have conversations in the background, which is happening right now.
Behave, Bobby.
Behave and get along and all that stuff. So we smoked. I'm still smoking the Perdomo Reserve 10th Anniversary Sungrown Reblend. You're still smoking it, Nicholas? Mm-hmm. Still have Nicholas Perdomo and Tim Kime on here. You lit up something different, Tim.
Yeah, so I lit up the Perdomo 20th Anniversary Sungrown.
I did that when we started.
Yes, you did.
I've got it on cue here. And we also featured in part 1. So if you haven't checked that out on the audio, we did the Wilderness Trail, which is the weeded, which is the bottle and bond. It's fantastic. We rated that towards the end of it, but we really enjoyed that along with the Perdomo 10th Anniversary Sungrown. So check that out. So this is where we get into it a little bit, and I'm curious to see where you guys are coming from. Tim, you went through a transition not too long ago.
Correct.
Not only moving, but also companies. You went through just everything, kind of like just everything took a big turn.
Yeah.
And how long ago was the move? The move happened before, and then the career change happened.
Yeah, I mean, so I was working at Holtz Cigars in Philadelphia, and
which is a big store,
which is a
online everything
store,
like
online
it's
everything.
Yeah.
And I got the opportunity to move to the great city of Columbus and work for Ashton Cigars, and I worked for them in this territory for a little bit over 4 years, and then I made the change and jumped on with the great company I'm with now, Perdomo Cigars.
When was that?
That was beginning of December. I got a call from Nick, and he said, "Hey, I need somebody in Ohio, West Virginia. We really want somebody that lives in Ohio that can relate to the people of Ohio." And
you're like, "I'm from Philly, so
I think I lived here long enough,
Yeah, Ohio's easy. Easy.
But yeah, I mean, it's been a great transition, and truly blessed to work for the company, and I get to continue to live in Columbus. So it's been a good change.
So real quick, would you have taken the move? You said December. Would you have made that move knowing what you know now about 2020?
Yeah. I mean, I've always respected the Perdomo family. I've always respected Nick. I've known Nick's known me since I was 18, since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I've always respected him, and I absolutely would have taken the opportunity.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
I love that answer. There's a lot of people that made career changes in around the turn of the year, and they're just like, man, if only I would have stayed where I was at, because it did not pan out the way. But I mean, you're absolutely right, and we heard in the break. So if you do listen to the audio, this is a time where I do want to mention with us doing it live, there's a little bit of an intermission. People are getting up and down and taking breaks and all that stuff, but there was a little conversation there that I like that answer, because it does bring into account that there's a lot of moving forward that Perdomo Cigars, along with some other companies, obviously around this industry and others, that they kind of put up the boards and you're like, all right, we got to battle the storm and everything like that. But at the same time, it's like, this will pass as well. So we got to survive, but then we also have to move forward when this is as time moves on. You can't just, turtle up, in my opinion. I love that answer. So with this, Nicholas, you've been with Perdomo Cigars since you were born, basically.
Yes.
When were you born? What year?
I was born in October of '92. So my dad started the company 2 months prior to when I was born.
A lot happened in the Perdomo family in 1992.
Yeah, he was. My dad's never been scared to take a risk. He had a great job as an air traffic controller, a lot of benefits, great salary.
Yeah.
But my dad always says, if I'm going to bet on anything, I'm going to bet on myself. So I never put the money in the market. He's not into the stock market, things like that. And I appreciate, I admire him because he says, I'm going to put the money on myself. So that's something that I really
Ballsy.
Respect. Yeah.
Ballsy. And he continues to do that.
Yep.
As it seems, like you said, you just bought a farm 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The family did. So with I said this in the break. So with SWOT, it comes down to it. You got two internal factors, which is strengths and weaknesses.
Sure.
So the concept of SWOT is, for those that don't know, you're looking at the big picture, but there are the two aspects, internal and external. And it's not the same. Strengths and weaknesses are not the same as opportunities and threats. So when it comes to the strengths, these are your strengths. When it comes to weaknesses, this is your weaknesses in whatever you're looking at, whether it be the business with you guys. You're obviously looking at Perdomo Cigars. Personally, career-wise, Nicholas, you're in the thick of the family business now, and it's not necessarily a transition, but it's a natural transition in a sense that now you're a bigger part of it as it goes forward, and that's just a natural transition.
Sure.
Hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, again, you're joining a company with a lot of experience in the industry, and so now you're looking at strengths and weaknesses of yourself. Job interview, which you obviously nailed to a point that you got a new job, which is fantastic. But then you look at the weaknesses, and then you go to the opportunities, which is outside factors. And when it comes to with you guys in the business, and then when I look at like career for all of us in different facets of the cigar industry, everyone listening out there, whatever your career is, this is something that whatever industry you're in, you have to look at the outside opportunities, which is, competition. This is legislation. Very apparent, obviously, in our industry and others. You look at the things that are going on politically and with COVID and everything else, the outside world, these things can affect you not only in a business sense, but obviously that's big. Your career can change. That's why I asked that question from you, Tim, is that would you do that considering with the previous company? You don't know what the future would have laid out from December to August. You don't know how it would have panned out. So the threats are something that really, I think, are more apparent right now is the outside threats between the industry we're in, what everyone else is working in. I know there's a lot of threats. And then also with the bigger picture right now, election year, you got COVID, you had obviously the issues going on with the protests and everything else with the Black Lives Matter and these big movements going on. These are all going to affect us on a personal level, on a relationship level, on a career level, on a business level. You can't ignore that. And I think what I found, and we talked about it earlier with Perdomo it seems more simple with the bigger picture, but the way you guys attacked when everything was kind of changing, you guys went big on business as usual, which you've already mentioned, Nicholas. Mm-hmm. You hired someone new for the territory, which was a goal prior to all this, but I mean, it was in the forecast. This has been building for a while, but then you also have just the overall election. You have just all these threats that are coming at you, and you guys went business as usual. And I'm curious to see where you come from, Nicholas, especially where the family business, how you went big on the social media we talked about earlier, how you went to this, we got to be aggressive.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people I mentioned earlier, like the term of turtling up. And there are a lot of people that are like, oh, shit, let's just wait it out and see how it happens and we'll get back out there. And I think a lot of those companies, a lot of those people that had that mentality, they're not coming out of it as easy.
Well, I mean, I think, everything starts at the head. And again, I got to give credit to my father. My dad's the type that, he looks at these as challenges, and, as challenges can be overcome. And at the end of the day, he doesn't let challenges stop anything. terms of his life, how he lives life,
Yeah.
and in this regard to our business. So, my father was in the military. He was in the Navy, and one thing that he learned in the military that he uses in our company as the president and CEO of our company is adapting.
Yeah.
And my dad can adapt, and it doesn't matter how old he is. He's never set in his ways. If there's ways that we can improve things, we keep who we are. We are Perdomo, in terms of our company, who we are, our origin, things like that. We're true to that. But in terms of how we do business, how we make cigars, how we grow tobacco, things like that, we always adapt. And whether it's to good things, whether it's to the bad things in life, so I really got to give him credit. He's the one who's been, steering this ship the right way during all this.
Let me take it a little more personal though. Like when you look at your vantage point,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel like, I'm curious now that you laid it out the timeline here, do you feel more identity with the Perdomo brand since you were born right around the time that it was founded?
Sure.
Do you feel personally, I mean, not necessarily Nick, and I'm sure Nick would have an answer if he was here as well, but I mean, from your viewpoint, and I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you feel like this is something that, your family, your dad especially, and also your mother, literally created two things in 1 year that now has been basically the Perdomo family?
Yeah,
More the cigars than you probably.
Well,
but.
I mean, the company to me, I've always felt since it's technically 2 months older, I feel like it's kind of like my older brother. I grew up with it.
I like that.
It's it's really the way I feel. It's something I embrace. I'm the next generation. I'm coming up. In terms of who we are, our identity as a company, I'm never going to change that. I want to continue to grow everything that my father laid in terms of the foundation of the company, who we are, the type of people we are, and why the type of cigars we make. So my goal is to continue to do that, continue to fulfill, everything my father wants to do while he's here. And one day when he decides when, I'm sure my wife and I have children, he's a grandfather. I'm sure he'll slow down, but I want to continue.
Wait, is that on the horizon here?
Not soon.
Do you have something you want to tell the audience?
No. My wife's watch is gonna kill me.
Right, kill me when she finally meets me. Maybe one day.
No. She won't.
Like, you're the guy. So what are your? I mean, so let's keep it with you. I mean, like, so when you look at your strengths and weaknesses, you grew up in this. Obviously, you went to, what was your major in college?
Business.
I feel like that was all part of the plan here for you too. The fact that you said when you were 6 years old, you wanted to get a part of this business. You want to be a cigar maker.
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you. Business school, I think the best business school I ever had was with my dad.
Naturally.
I think it was the best business school was with Arthur Kemper, our vice president. So
how long has Arthur been with the company?
Arthur's celebrating his 20th year. He came on board in 2000.
Did they know each other before this?
Well, what happened was Arthur Kemper, he was a retailer in San Antonio, Texas, for a big company called Club Humidor. They have 4 or 5 stores.
All right.
And he met my dad at a trade show at the old RTDA in 1999, 2000. And he asked my dad, can I show you my retail store? So Arthur was able to bring him. He said, oh, it's only 5 minutes away. It was really 30 minutes away. And so he took my dad.
How they get you.
Yeah. So he took my dad, store was perfectly merchandised, attention to detail, and my dad was so impressed. And my dad said, I want you to work with me.
No kidding.
So
how did he start with the business? I mean, that's early on still, sort of.
Arthur started in the warehouse. Arthur started from the ground up. I mean,
seems to be a trend at this company.
Yeah, my dad's really big into you have to hold your weight. I
yeah.
mean, you gotta learn everything from the ground up, which I appreciate.
You really do. I think that's any industry. But I mean, so going back to you again, I'm going to keep bringing it back to you.
No problem.
I can appreciate, obviously a lot of when you talk about Perdomo cigars, you talk about your father a lot, and I that's natural. And I understand that. But when you look at, so as you grew in this industry and you're making a name of your own,
mm-hmm.
when you look at yourself, your strengths and weaknesses, let's talk business here for a second. I mean, what do you feel your SW is of SWOT as far as when you look at let's look at now as you as we hopefully are getting out of some of these things, in 2021 will be a little bit different. You're now what's your actual title is
National Director of Sales.
National Director of Sales. So you were surprised in a sense. I remember the last time I met you, you were surprised. You were not expecting this. This was at a national sales meeting with all of your people.
Correct.
And you were sitting in the audience and all of a sudden Nick says, all right, I want to introduce our new national, and it was you.
Yeah.
And so like, obviously the building from the ground up, it was your job interview in a sense. It wasn't just because of your last name.
Yeah.
So you earn it. So where are you at now as far as your strengths? What do you think your strengths? Let's start with strengths. What are the strengths? How do you build this part of the business where you're at?
Well, I think my strength is that I've been so involved in this industry my whole life. I have a lot of relationships with a lot of retailers, a lot of our business partners. I think a big strength is me as I've been going to Nicaragua since 1998.
So knowledge.
So I think I have a lot of knowledge. I've learned a lot about tobacco over the years. And, I think the biggest strength I had growing up was listening to my dad. He was my hero. Great teacher. So I think it's been the transition for me, increasing my role as the years go on, I really believe has been a lot easier since I listened to my dad.
Did you go through the typical thing where, as growing up, you're like, you thought highly of your dad or your parents, then you went through the teenage years. Was there ever that point where you're like, screw this, man, I don't want to be in the cigar industry, I'm going to go do my own thing?
Never.
That's
never.
Awesome. Never. That's awesome. How about weaknesses?
Your
strength right now, I feel like, is not only what you've done yourself, but also the mentor.
Well, I think weakness
and listening.
Sure. I mean, I think a natural weakness is, maybe I'm a young guy. I got a lot more to learn, and I'm fine with that. And I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to adapt. So that's something that, I look forward to learning more. So, I mean, I'm learning every day. So,
I like that. I feel like I'm doing like a job interview. I did hundreds or maybe thousands back in my old career. And it was one of those things like, my favorite question was always, this is management, this is frontline, this is everything. It's like, if we had the tables turned and you had to pick one reason why you wouldn't hire yourself, what would it be?
Right.
Because I care too much. You're like, all right, get the fuck out of my office. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. I mean, that's not a bad answer, but it's kind of a cliche one. I think that's a great answer. I think it's embracing your position still. I think, with people in your cookie cutter, if you wanted to do that, where it's like, you have a parent that starts a business, you hit that age, and now you're getting to that point where, all right, so now it's going to be yours. It's there's a sense of entitlement.
Sure.
And I've met you twice. I've had conversations with you twice, and I don't think that is even a breath coming out of you that like, this is my birthright.
Sure.
You want to do this.
Well, I think growing up, Tim and I were talking about our dads, and I think we're the last generation of real tough love. And, my dad, I think always growing up, I think he kept me honest. And, he said, if you want to grow in this company, it's based off of excellence. I don't care if you're my son. I don't care if your last name's Perdomo. You're going to do things the way we want to do it, the way the family does it. And you're going to learn. And, that's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so I stuck by my dad. I was connected to his hip pretty much. And I learned everything. And, alongside Arthur Kemper, who's like my sensei. And, so I want to learn. I want to learn from the best.
Besides the company, do you have any siblings?
I have a sister. Yeah.
A sister?
Yeah,
Is she involved?
Sister. No, she's actually in law school right now.
So she may be involved later.
Yeah. She'll be the first. What's my dad always say? She'll be the first lawyer not to screw over our family. So.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. All right. Before we get to opportunity to threat, Tim, you came into this industry through the retail side and everything like that. So let's do the job interview thing, when we're talking about business here. Coming into this, side of the business, maybe not with Perdomo, but just in the business. I mean, what do you consider, your strengths? I mean, this is something, or if you want to focus on, you're welcome to do that right now with Perdomo. The way you said you took what, a week or two off?
Yeah. Like 2 days.
2 days?
Yeah.
And you're on the phone. You're like, when can I travel? Like, I'll hit up local shops as long as they're cool with it. You don't want to do that. So
he never stopped. He kept hitting the phones. He did a really nice job.
So I mean, like you got Nicholas saying that, but what do you consider like one of your strengths or the strengths when it comes to the business side of Perdomo? Or with you, it's not necessarily being a part of the family, but where you're at in the company. I mean, this is a career thing. You just made a big career move.
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest strength overall is, I started at the bottom. I started retail, and I can relate to the retail side of it, and I can also relate to the rep side of it.
Which is key in your position.
Sure.
Clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I know how to run a store. I know everything about the store and the brick and mortar side of it. And then I also have the experience on the road and the knowledge of the products and stuff like that. So I think that's probably one of my biggest strengths is, I can relate to both sides of the fence.
What about weakness?
Weakness, I think right now is, just getting out there and, getting into new stores and getting the word out there on the product and, just getting out there and creating more business.
Okay.
If I could say something real quick, I've been with
You
Tim.
can say all you want.
I've been with Tim for just, half the week. And one thing is, it's a good thing to be liked, but, Tim's liked and respected, which I think being respected is the biggest thing. And one thing I will say is our brick and mortar partners, they really respect him, and I'm really proud of him. And he's doing a really phenomenal job. And I just wanted to throw an attaboy to you because
Thanks.
you're really well respected. And you deserve
It's more
that.
like the respected then liked.
Yeah.
It's like in that order.
Yeah.
Whichever way, being respected, that's the most important thing. If you're liked, you're gonna get pushed around, but you're respected.
No,
man.
fantastic. Yeah. So how does this so get off of the business before we get to opportunities and threats? How's this affected going on right now with the business and everything? Like, how's this affected your guys' personal life?
Personal life.
I mean, I'm talking about like obviously everything we talked about, like with Tim coming on. I'm sorry, Nicholas.
Sure.
But I mean, you get into this situation where we're at. I mean, this is again, and we don't need to necessarily dive completely in here, but I feel like this is a relevant part of the conversation because there are listeners out there that are more bourbon drinkers. That we have a lot of cigar smokers.
Sure.
We have some people that don't actually they listen to it, but they don't actually smoke or drink. So I mean, when it comes to the personal life, I mean, when you guys translate what you're trying to do from different vantage points
In terms of family or
family, I mean, that's the big thing is how is it affecting your family and relationship? You said you're married, right?
Yeah, I think it's been great. I mean, I've spent more time because I'm usually on the road a week, 2 weeks out of the month. I mean, I've spent more time with my dad, my mom, my wife.
How close do you live to the parents?
I'm about 25, 30 minutes west of my
That's
parents.
safe. That's a safe distance.
I got the 25-minute rule. I got my in-laws 25 minutes
Yeah.
south. I got my parents 25 minutes. No, it's
Is that
it's
is that why you bought the house?
No,
or-
no. That's the
Okay.
house I actually grew up in. I
Okay.
told my parents one day, I said, I'm gonna buy this house from you guys, and
I love that.
so
I love that. But it's been good.
it's been great. It's been great. I've never barbecued. I've probably gotten 2 or 3 barbecues during this whole pandemic. I mean, smoker.
Was
griddle.
barbecuing a weakness of yours before this?
No, I love to barbecue. No,
All right.
you don't get this size, man.
Yeah, all right.
Not barbecuing good.
It's a
Oh, I do pretty good. If I'm eating
not
it,
eat barbecue.
if I'm eating it, it's got to be pretty good.
There you go. All right. So there's no real like strengths and weaknesses there. I mean, like strengths obviously of what you're doing right now is embracing the family life, is embracing the almost time off. Not time off. I don't want to say
No,
like
I get
that.
what you're saying.
It's more of like time off the road. It's time off. Like it's a change of pace.
Yeah, we've really been able to, kind of regroup in a way and focus and kind of look at the strength and weaknesses of ourselves. I'll tell you what, I mean, we hired during the middle of this whole entire pandemic, we hired a salesman for the
Really?
territory of Arizona, Colorado. What we did was we hired him right when COVID hit. We couldn't fly him down because of all these things.
February, March.
Yeah, right in March.
March.
So what we did was we took advantage of the Zoom. We did Zoom meetings. We trained him through Zoom for about 2.5, 3 months. Then when we brought him to Miami, I kind of had no idea what we were going to do because we Zoomed everything. We trained everything. So everything was, just touching, trying to do the fine tuning.
But they were home.
Yeah, he was home.
Okay.
And so name's Rod Madrano. He's a phenomenal salesman. He was in the soft drink business before. And so he's doing a great job.
We had a story about the soft drink aisle at Kroger here nearby.
Oh, no, I heard that one.
Tim, how about you, man? Like I said, you moved to Columbus when?
So I moved to Columbus in late 2015.
Gee, it's been that long?
It's been that long. You guys been stuck with me for that
Are
long.
you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oof. Cool.
I remember when you came out here.
Yeah.
I was thinking 2018 or so, but
No.
yeah, all right.
No.
Seems like yesterday.
Yeah. Right.
Almost
Right.
half a decade.
Yeah. Yep. But some of the good things that came out of the whole COVID thing was, Nicholas and the family was nice enough to let me travel home for a week or two and spend time with family. And, for me, nothing's more important than family. So I was able to get back to Philadelphia and see my mom, my dad, my brother, my dogs, all that.
Yeah.
So, that was great to spend time with them, see them, get some home cooked meals.
Yeah, right.
And, it was just, get the body refreshed, getting off the road for a little bit. But, once I got back to Columbus, we're road warriors. We want to be on the road. We want to be out there and seeing
Absolutely.
people. And it was good to get back on the road after a couple weeks off.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as like your personal life, though, I mean, you got the family and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So when it comes back, like you stay on the road, like you said, like you just kept at it. You know.
yeah, I mean, once I thought I was safe to go on the road, for a little bit, I was just taking some day trips to,
Yeah.
Cleveland, Lexington, Louisville. And then, sometime in late May or early May, we finally started doing hotels again. And, hotels were safe. They were clean. And since then, it's been business as usual and getting back out there and doing business.
So all right, I gotta be honest. I mean, like, I love these answers because this is, I guess it's what I expected based on what I know of you two. Obviously, I know Tim a little bit better than Nicholas, and I been very impressed in my short time in this industry. I was a cigar smoker before that, but I've been a part of the industry professionally for 7.5, going on 8 years. But I kind of expected this. I mean, it's not one of those type of part twos or interviews that I expect you guys to come out and be like, yeah, man, it's been fucking hard. You guys been banging. You guys just gone through, and I love hearing the family part of it. And, clearly I assume that was part of the job interview when Tim's getting hired on, and it's like, all you have to say is like, family's the biggest part of my life. And then I don't know who interviewed you with Perdomo, Tim.
So his father and Arthur.
Yeah. So if what's most important to you? Family. Like, all right, well, all right. That's a big win. That's a big plus.
Road, and my dad called me, hey, we're hiring Tim Kime. We just hired him. So I was like, great.
You knew him before?
Oh yeah, I've known Timmy for a long time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's my man.
I think Nicholas was like 15, 16 when I first met him.
Yeah.
No shit.
So.
Yeah, it's a long time.
But I got to be honest. I mean, I think there's a lot of times, like with this, what's going on, I think the strengths and weaknesses are there's a lot of people focusing on the weaknesses. I mean, I think that we're in good company here, that people in the garage and people listening, hopefully, I don't know, and people can comment and everything. It's just, I think there's a lot of people that did not handle it the same way. And that's what impressed me so much from a business standpoint, from hearing you guys right now, is that when they looked at the strengths and weaknesses, it's like the internal stuff was completely outweighed by the external, the opportunities and threats.
Well, we got to give credit to the guy who leads our company, my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. And you do. I mean, but again, and not to take that lightly, but I think that's something that, Nick, yeah, you have to have the mentor, you have to have the leader. But again, no matter where you're at in your position with any company, you still have the personal life. You still have the bills to pay. You still have to get up in the morning. You still have to go in and do your job.
Sure.
And, there's a lot of people, which a lot of the focus was the unemployment stuff, the extra money. It was this. It was like you couldn't go to your small business. You couldn't do these things. So how do I survive? Who am I as a person type of a thing? And you guys, I love the fact that you work for the Perdomo family, and you're part of the Perdomo family. And Nicholas, you work for the Perdomo family.
Yeah, I do.
You know what I mean? There's other jobs out there that, your dad made it very clear. It's, it's not because of your last name. It's because you're doing what you're doing. You don't do that. You can have the Perdomo last name working somewhere else.
He was tough on me, and I thank God for it. But
that's good. So what are the opportunities and threats? So what are the outside factors? I know, like, so with Perdomo and again, people that don't know the cigar side of it, this is something that we've always talked about. Is when you have a whiskey vendor on, or like a
Sure.
distiller or anything like that, it's a little more whiskey heavy. But one of the things that a lot of people don't understand about the cigar industry is that we've had a lot of outside threats.
Right.
And it's typically through legislation. It's typically through even just the social norms, of smoking, the health
Right.
risks, and everything else. But more recently, in the last 10 years, probably 15 years, the whole time. But it's the FDA. It's Perdomo was a big proponent on taking on the S chip, which I don't know, Nicholas, if you could explain to the listeners that even cigar smokers may not know that, because I feel like that's been kind of water under the bridge at this point, because everyone's just kind of like, that's old news. I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, so the S-chip tax, the excise tax, that was a tax put on us in 2008, and basically they taxed us 40 cents per cigar. And what my father did, the most fearless man that I know in this world, everybody was freaking out, and he kept under control. He's cool, calm, and collective always. And he said, we're going to, we spoke with our accountants. They thought he was crazy, but we absorbed all of the, 40 cents doesn't sound a lot, but when you do it by 24 million cigars sold a year, that's quite a bit of money.
Well, when it passes on to the retailer, they have to then charge the consumer.
Right. So we absorbed the tax, and so in 2008, we brought our price points down to about where we had them in 1999, 2000. So we lowered our price, and we absorbed the S-chip tax, the 40 cents per cigar. So that was something that, eventually down the road, I think the consumers, our business partners, and the brick and mortar guys, I think they really appreciated it.
Absolutely.
We grew a lot. We took a lot of market share in the industry, and that's how our company really took off and grew a lot.
You still do that, right?
Yeah, we still absorb the S-chip tax.
Yeah,
you'll see it on the bottom of your invoice in the bottom left corner. You'll see.
No, I see it. They don't see it.
We still do, absolutely.
Yeah. So what are the now O&T? What's the opportunities and threats right now for the business?
I think the big
and then
sure,
we'll get to the personal side.
Sure. So I think the biggest opportunity right now for the business, I don't know if you saw in Cigar Aficionado recently, they put out the top 10 most the biggest brands, I guess, in for brick and mortar, and we were number 3. And I think the top 3 have one similarity: we're family owned. And I think the family owned companies, the companies that have a face to them, I think that's a big opportunity in terms of, I think that's very strong for us. That's something that's real important, having the Perdomo family. I think our inventories of tobacco, us being vertically integrated, our inventories of tobacco are outstanding. We very, very rarely get back orders. I mean, we're at 99.8% in stock position right now.
If Tim sold more, you'd probably be in back order, right?
Oh, he's selling well. He's got. He can always keep selling more. I'm happy, but I'm never content. But we can always sell more. But he's So that's something that's really big, really important. We're not really skipping a beat. So inventory, vertically integrated, family company. I think those are the big opportunities that we have. And then I think the biggest threat that we have is our government in terms of the FDA, in terms of.
We had a big win recently.
We did have a big win.
Temporarily, possibly, but a big win.
Yep. And but I'll take it. And so I'm happy about that. But we're that's our biggest threat. But I look at 2008 and 2008, 10 years, 12 years ago, looking into the future.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of us thought that 90% of the companies would be out of business. We wouldn't be selling cigars, but we're still here. The industry's super strong. We're even through all this terrible things that are happening with this COVID, we're experiencing another cigar boom. So, I think.
Why do you think that is?
I think people being home. I think the guy who was maybe smoking a cigar a day, I think he's home. He's probably smoking 3 cigars a day. I think guys are just, I think people want to escape. I think this is one of the best things, having this show and being able to have bourbon and a cigar, and
easier to talk over whiskey, isn't it?
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But I think saying, my brain telling myself, hey, I'm here with Steve and the guys, and I have 3 hours. I'm gonna enjoy a cigar. I'm gonna drink a nice drink, and so I haven't thought about COVID until we talked about it.
So I brought it up.
So we
Yeah, no,
brought it
I
up.
know,
It's
I
all
know,
right,
I
but
know.
you know, that's
It's my
that's-
job as a host, and I gave myself that job. So
But we kind of step outside the world. You know what I mean?
You do.
I think that's the big thing.
well, that's one of those things. That was one of the biggest. So call it I guess a threat of the show, right? Is this is something that back in March, it's like, all right, how do we survive this where no one's out and it was just me sitting where you're sitting, Nicholas, at the laptop and everything right in front of me, and it was like everyone's remote.
Right.
How do you survive? Now it's like we're coming to it. It's like, all right, so now we're still dealing with this.
Yeah.
Like, how do we not talk about that? I listen to a lot of podcasts, not a lot, but I listen to several, but I listen to them a lot, right? So I'm a loyal listener to some of them. They're still talking about all this stuff. So it's all current events. Even the podcasts that were not about the current events, they were business ones, they were topic ones. It always goes back to this. You can't, it's so difficult. If you don't talk about it, it's like you're ignoring the situation.
True.
So, I mean, that is it. It's a tough part to, I guess, I bring into your everyday conversation, which is this podcast. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Tim, how about you? Opportunities and threats.
Yeah, I mean, opportunities. The Perdomo brand is selling well, and like Nicholas said, thank God our factories and everything keep our stocks going, keep our inventory going. So I don't have to hear from my customers saying, where's this, where's that, and that's a huge relief for us as reps.
Oh, absolutely.
Where we could say, hey, we have this in stock and we can sell it to you, because as soon as you get the product, the quicker you can sell it. So,
right.
And what was the other one?
The threats.
The threats. Just like Nicholas said, our biggest threat in this industry, we're a very small niche industry, is the government, the FDA.
What about you though, in the sales position? What's the threat?
I really don't have a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I like that answer.
Yeah, I mean, right now life's good. Business is good. I'm blessed to still have a job and get a paycheck every couple of weeks, and I just thank God, and I don't have a threat. Right now life's good. So,
well, I think for you guys, I think everyone out there, when it comes to career and business, no matter what industry, but I think you guys are talking about the cigar industry, and it's obviously it's appropriate for this type of a podcast, and I think it relates to a lot of different industries. The opportunities, obviously, that no one knows what we're dealing with, so that can be viewed as so 2020 and everything that's happening right here, and in our lifetime, this is in our lifetime, in our age, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not talking about 60, 70-year-old people. Like this type of thing has happened before. You're going back to the late 50s, late 60s that we don't talk about a whole lot. And I brought it up in a lot of conversations that we had major illnesses. But as far as the way that we've handled it has never really happened before. And I think that, the opportunities and threats are wide open. And so for let's take the cigar industry, because that's where we're at right now, is that it translates to so many other careers, and like I said, industries, is that it's an unknown. So there's a threat and it's also an opportunity.
Yes.
So this is, I like having you guys on here when we're talking about this, because when, Tim, you say, I don't really know the threats. It's not because you're not diving down far enough in. I look at it as that this is something that it's an attitude. And I've been harping on this. I thought about this before having you guys on, and I've already mentioned it, is that the way you guys handled it, beefing up the YouTube thing. You had a new release that you guys are referring to as possibly the largest launch in pushing 30 years. Mm-hmm. Doing all this stuff, having the unknown, you could have been like, I know of other companies in the industry, and I know of other industry people, other industries, that they said, let's hold back. Let's see how this plays out. We're gonna take a step back. We'll let it all kind of everything out the outside. So there's the opportunities and threats. We're going to see if this is an opportunity or a threat. Right. And I think that's a lot like, almost like the stock market. I think it's a lot of health things. It's you got to keep going, and you got to pick a path. And I think that sitting on your hands is not one of those that I would recommend. I think this is something that you guys, through the social media, I think through your sales, like you said, you took a couple of days off and now you're on the phone. And I'm like, I know of other reps in this business and others that they're like, there's nothing for me to do. So I don't know if I should call. I don't want to try to sell when I know everyone's in this bad situation. It's like, just fucking call them.
Yeah. I mean,
Ask them how they're doing.
Yeah.
Sales is very, it translates to every other relationship in your life. And I think this is something that if you're at least keep the lines of communication open. We did that from the retail side. I tried to do it from a personal side. I know not everyone wanted to get together. I know not everyone wanted to buy cigars. I know not everyone wanted to listen to podcasts. But you just keep doing it. For those that wanted to embrace it, at the very least, you say, hey, we're here. If you're free, you're interested. I want to make sure that that I'm here for you. And from a sales standpoint, hey, how you doing? Yeah. You don't need to buy anything. I'm not like pitching you, but you're doing your job if you say like, hey, we're in it too. So I hate to even ask, but I got this deal going. And I know Perdomo didn't really I know it's not like your deal. Like you guys, I'm not looking for the quick buck, but it's like at the very least, we're here. Do you need anything?
Of course.
And I know that you guys did it, and other people if you need anything, but I know you can't pay for it right now because we don't know what's happening. It's like one of those things like, how can we support you? That was an opportunity where other people saw this situation as a threat. And I think that's where I come back to it, is that when you're looking at opportunities and threats, a lot of times you really have to dial in to say, do I make the situation an opportunity or a threat? Nicholas, you brought up like the S-chip thing. You know what I mean? You talked about that. That was for a lot of companies in this industry. And when things come up from the outside, people look at it as a complete threat. And you guys did. And then quickly, I don't know if it was like in a day, but eventually you said, this is an opportunity that long game, we are going to not only help the retailers, help the customers, but we're going to take the hit, take this as an opportunity that when everything comes out in a wash, you give it a little bit of legs, that people will appreciate this, and we will survive and we'll come out on top. And that's where I think when you look at the outside threats and also outside opportunities, there's a lot of times people try to look at it from just on paper. And I don't believe you guys did. I think you really dove into it.
I think that
mentality is underrated, or at least underappreciated.
No, I appreciate it. I think the biggest thing is that, my dad taught me as a kid, and I think the way he handles everything as CEO and president of our company is you got to look at things. You got to look at the glass half full instead of half empty.
Yeah.
Well, you need to fill up a little more. And that's really what it is.
Make it half full. All right.
Yeah, man. So help me. And so, but that's really what it is.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, there's always a bump in the road, and we're going to get over that bump,
Yeah.
And so we're here to help our business partners, however we can. And, because at the end of the day, brick and mortar, we're proud to say it, they're the ones who brought us to the dance.
How do you guys think that translates to, so people that aren't in the cigar industry, how do you think that translates to them?
In terms, the consumer?
No, I'm talking, get out of the cigar world for a second.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I know this is a whiskey and cigar podcast, but so say someone, sells janitorial supplies. So
right.
Say someone, is working retail, but not cigars. Think of someone that works a cubicle job that, is in the banking, working from home.
I think contrary to what our government says about essential and non-essential, I think everybody in this country is essential, whatever you do. And I think everyone's important. And I think everything matters, what we do. So in my opinion, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to have the right mindset, and you have to not look at the weakness or the disadvantages of the whole COVID, and and find the opportunities. I mean, that's what his dad drilled into us. He goes, don't look at the disadvantages, take this and find the opportunities and the advantages, and and grow and go from there. So.
Yeah. Well, I know that with this given thing, what's going on in this world is, I've had to really kind of keep pushing myself, which you guys haven't really talked about. You make it sound so natural, which I think is bullshit. I think you guys make
Put
it
the note
sound.
cards away.
Yeah, put the note cards away. I think you guys make it sound, which is good. I mean, it's a good message. I mean, have you guys struggled at all, like during all this? I mean, or has it been that easy for you guys? Because I know for me, it was, you know, Nicholas. I gotta say, like, it's tough and also a little bit fortunate that you work for the family business,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if you're doing your stuff and you're busting your ass, you guys seem to be a healthy enough company that you didn't have to let go of anyone, you didn't have to make any major changes. You actually hired someone,
Right?
I was, and Tim, I don't know if you can relate. I just kept doing more. It's for me, in the position I'm in, and with having a girlfriend that lives with me, that her business was shut down.
Yeah.
You start looking at like the SWOT. It's like, all right, so me personally, like, all right, what are my strengths? What can I do better?
Mm-hmm.
Keep building up my strengths. What are my weaknesses? Let's fix that real quick. And then the outside threats, I already, threats and opportunities, I already kind of talked about it. It was something that you look at, and you have to, in my opinion, you have to embrace both sides of it. And if you can change a threat into an opportunity mentally, that's fine. But what can I do more?
Of course.
What can I do more so that I look at a friend who is also the owner of the business, who we've been at it for 7+ years, that the life that I have, after all the changes, in my years where I was married and divorced, I had a career after college for 12 years. And then I got in the cigar business, and everyone's like, aren't you worried about your health? And it's like, first year I lost a bunch of weight because I wasn't fucking stressed. And then I looked at this and I'm like, I'm not going to do that again. So now it's like, all right, so first thing is I got to look at this SWOT. That's my mentality. So I looked at it. I was like, what more can I do so that I am no longer dispensable? Like unless there's just no money. And Brian had to look at me and he's like, dude, I can't afford you.
Right.
As soon as things square up, we're good. And so I went into overdrive. And I think, to me, most people have that in them, but they never just switch that gear. And I know a lot of positions, they don't have that freedom, right?
Well, you're born with that, I think.
I
do. I really
you
believe
think you're
it.
born with that?
I think that, I think there's people
maybe
who
deep down.
Yeah, I think there's people who need the switch to be turned on for themselves. But I think in terms of fire starters, kind of like what you're saying, I think that's like my father. I think you're born with that. That's a character of leadership, and I think that's something that you're born with. To be honest,
I looked at it as it was different. It was a survival thing for me.
Sure.
Because I it's like, for me, it's like I graduated high school with the typical suburban. It was like, all right, so college prep and all that stuff. And it's college prep meant you can literally, I graduated high school in 98, and it was, college prep is good enough for you to go undeclared as a freshman, which I still think is bullshit. Like, that's a terrible thing to do, especially nowadays. You don't take $100,000 debt on hand when you have no idea what you're going to do. Just like take a step back before you start that debt, right? But I through my 20s and everything else, I've talked about it on the podcast, I went through the motions in a positive way. But there was a time where, like now, if you flash back, if this happened 10 years ago, it could have been a good thing for me personally, in a sense that it would have kickstarted this mentality. But I've been working on this, maybe it is deep down that character quality is there. And I think it is there for a lot of people, but they don't realize it. I mean, there's never been the fire starter to be like, all right, so now you really need to wake up, be an adult, and get to work.
Right.
It's not about the paycheck. It's not about going in and like, oh, I have to be there at 8:00. I'm there at 7:55, and clock out time's 5:00. I did my job. I go home. Like, this is actually like identity with the job. And I hope that this has been as much of a good experience with all this stuff. And I know it sounds maybe terrible, because this is a terrible situation we're in.
Of course, no
But
doubt.
it's that flipping the switch, flipping the script for yourself is like, all right, shit sucks right now. So now I got to get to work.
Yeah, no doubt.
How can I survive? And it's not just, doing the minimum, but how can I support the people mentally, emotionally? I went through that a lot during this when, like I said, when my girlfriend she had no choice. The business was shut down by the government. So now it's like, all right, I'll get another job. No one's hiring. So what do? You play by the rules. I had the opportunity. I think that you guys had the opportunity as well. And then for anyone out there that had the opportunity is that you switch gears.
No doubt.
You go into overdrive. You adapt, but you look at that. What are my weaknesses? How can I make those strengths? What are my strengths? How can I make them even more powerful? And then the outside stuff, let me address those so that they can now feed into my strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely.
You guys didn't experience that at all.
Well, I mean, it's Steve, it's outside of the workforce we have in the United States. I mean, we're responsible for thousands of people's lives
Absolutely.
in Nicaragua. So, I mean, I think the mindset that my dad had that, I think he instilled in all of us is that, we have to take care of our family, we have to take care of our friends, we have to take care of the people around us, but also we have a big responsibility to the thousands of people that we have in Nicaragua that work for us, whether you're a salesman, whether you're in the family, whoever you are, and as long as you're part of this company, there's going back to, you got to hold your weight no matter what.
Is that the motivation? Is that people rely on you guys?
Absolutely, to a point. Yeah, I think about it. It's like last night I'm driving with Tim and we're driving late last night, and I think about my salesman. Like, there's a lot of times they'll call me up at night and say, hey, I got a long drive. Can you stay on the phone with me? And so I'll stay on the phone with them so they don't fall asleep or anything like that. And I'm
what do you guys talk about?
No, just, business, how things are going, family, friends, all that stuff. And last night I'm driving with Tim, and Tim's a great driver. And I'm saying, you know what? I feel good. And in my head, I'm going, man, I feel really good. I can go to sleep at night because I know Tim's going to get home safe. He's a cautious driver.
You say
he really pays attention.
You can go to sleep at night? You mean like at that moment?
Yeah, because I worry about my salesman. I worry about myself. I think about it all the time. So they're family. And but yeah, I mean, we're responsible for a lot of people. So, I get it. You have to think about it. But
your attitude's so positive and constructive. It's terrible to have an interview with you.
No.
It is a breath of fresh air. I'm busting balls. I mean, it is a breath of fresh air. I love the positivity.
I appreciate it. Well, we got a lot to be positive about in terms of, I get there's bad things going on. I know that there's things, but in the end, we're all going to come through. We're Americans. We're the best in the world. We really are, and we're going to get through this. We're the best that's out there in this world, and we're gonna conquer. After all this is done, we're gonna go out and we're gonna get back. We'll be back.
I think we're getting there.
So
I think we're getting there.
We are.
Well, it's tough when they're so positive on this podcast. I'm not looking for negativity, but you guys are just too good at people. It's annoying. No, I'm just kidding. It's fantastic. I appreciate you guys. I mean, this is something that I like when every time, like before you guys came over, I'm flipping stations, right? As I'm eating dinner, flipping between local news. And then it's like, all right, the dreaded, all right, so what's on Fox News? What's on CNN? And I'm watching all this stuff, and it's tough to digest, This is what I really appreciate is that, and I encourage, and I think one of probably the biggest threats to a lot of people out there right now is throughout all this, where people were at home, when they were watching Twitter, when they're watching news, whatever news they identify with or whatever, it really beat a lot of people down.
I get it. I
mean,
mean,
the personal interaction, and the Zoom was great. The doing this stuff was fantastic, but when it came down to it, I think the biggest thing that people didn't realize they might be missing. And you guys, Nicholas especially, you said it was nice to be able to spend time with family. But you have people there. Not everyone has people.
Sure.
So now you're just there, or you have just your spouse. I know that, Liz and I had our ups and downs during all this stuff, because it was just one of those things. It's like we don't know what to do. She had no normal. I never stopped going to work. I just adapted, and I was out, and I went to work every day, even though the lights were off. It was just, me and Brian, one other person, and then we did what we could to survive. But the helplessness of some people, I hope that everyone embraces the fact that now we not get back to the way it was, but you get back to interacting with people, because you guys never stopped.
No, and people,
maybe that's part of the positivity.
Sure, and I think we're stronger all together. I think when we're all isolated, that's when we're at our most weak point. But I think when we're all together, we're our strongest. And in terms of what's going on in the world today, my parents taught me, love God, love others, and there's always going to be good and there's always going to be bad. But as human beings, we have a choice, and I choose to be with the good, and I choose to love everyone. And at the end of the day, we just have to stay positive. Things are always going to come. Life's a cycle. There's always the good part and always the bad part. But at the end, we're going to get through it. We just got to love one another, and we just got to do our best and our best part to help others, and to be the best we can every day. So that's how I want to live my life.
I mean, if that's not a good way to start the closing remarks, I don't know what is. So.
Thank you for watching tonight. Appreciate it.
Awkward silence. Who's going to speak first? Tim, yes. Closing remarks. So again, I want to say, thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
I want to do it again.
Let's do it. Yeah. Next time you're in town in a year and a half, let's do it.
I'll be back sooner.
We'll do it in the wintertime where you can wear your jacket and we're not sweating. We'll have heaters on.
I stopped sweating after I went inside.
Yeah, all right. So I run a little hot. That's fine.
It's all right.
Well, I'm also bald.
You probably worked out before this.
Yeah,
anyway.
He did.
I did this morning.
No, you probably did about 100 push-ups before. And then
you gotta look. You gotta look big.
You're gonna sweat.
You gotta look big for the camera. Tim.
Yes.
Closing remarks.
Yeah, I mean, this was my first Bourbon and BS podcast.
Thank you for getting the name right.
And I've been telling Steve I wanted to come on here for a while now. And
yeah,
finally,
absolutely.
I had to bring the big dogs in from Miami to finally get on the show, but no, it was a true honor to come on here. I had a blast, and and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah. So, I'll say my closing remarks here in a second here, but I do want to thank our sponsors, patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. You guys have made this even more possible, and the expansion that I'm looking forward to, as hopefully you guys enjoy it. You enjoy the t-shirts and swag. We have some more ideas for more swag from the cigar side, from the bourbon side, just the community in general. Like I said, Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook is growing. 1,100 members since October. It's a lot of fun. We got a lot of good conversation, and someone mentioned it. Nate, I think it was you, about Janine. So this week I posted the top contributors to the page, and Janine Perdomo was the top one. Granted, she was posting a lot of your great YouTube videos, which it's amazing. But the community has been huge, and having you guys on, I hope it's grown. We've had great viewers. I hope you guys have really tuned into both part 1 and part 2, because part 2 is again Beyond the BS, and that's where we're at. Tinder Box at Easton, also Altadis USA, and BS Cigar Company. You guys have made this also possible from the very beginning, early on. I know we have Perdomo on, but I do want to give a shout out to Josh Bentley and Paul Waller from Altadis USA. They believed in us from episode 15. And Paul reached out to me and said, that was a fun episode back in the old garage. We had a different setup, and we had Paul and Josh in there, and Josh had just started with Altadis. He was with Oliva before. We took a break, and he came up to the table, and I was like, you need a pour? Because he didn't know the whole catalog. So Paul's like, yeah, don't be a part of the podcast yet, and all this stuff. So he's like, no, can I pull up a chair? Because we were talking about family, and it was just a great episode. This was early on, and that's the essence of this podcast. It's not just a cigar review. It's not just the whiskey review. It's about the community. It's about talking about things like we've been talking about, is that, it always comes back to cigars and whiskey, but typically it's about bigger issues. And I do want to touch on that, in my closing remarks, is that with the SWOT analysis, I look at strengths and weaknesses are always, there's a little bit of a consistency there.
Mhm.
But I think as we grow, that the strengths, you have to build on them. You have to, first of all, you have to analyze all this stuff. You have to identify what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, because some people don't want to admit that they have weaknesses, but it's so much more beneficial to embrace your weaknesses so that you can get better.
Keeps you honest.
Whether it be from let's take it back, nutrition, fitness, emotional level. Then it gets into your personal relationships, which are very important, as you guys both said. Family is huge. And a lot of times family is not just the blood, it's people that you hold as family, close friends. And then you have the career and business. Those can be strengths. Sometimes they can be weaknesses, but again, you have to identify those things so that you can improve upon both those. Hopefully you can strengthen the weaknesses to the point that they become strengths. Now that's all internal. Today is I think more apparent than ever is the opportunities and threats. And as we mentioned before, and I'm going to summarize my closing remarks, is that I am a firm believer that based on where you're coming from, you may not have complete control of those opportunities and threats and turning threats into opportunities. But I will say more often, if you don't embrace those, if you don't identify those things, the opportunities you will miss and they will soon become threats.
Yeah.
So you stay active, you stay at it. Like you guys have said, you keep moving forward, you stick to the plan. And sometimes you have to adapt, like you both said. I think adapting is the biggest key to realizing when you analyze your SWOT that you can really, really take that information that you took for granted because you didn't actually look at it, that now going forward, and let's take it as a simple metaphor. When 2020 is over, don't wait for 2021. As 2020 is ending, that's where you're preparing for 2021. You get after it now, and you do the SWOT analysis on your personal life, on your business, your career, and also if you're in a situation where you have more identity with the business you're involved in, get involved.
Yeah.
Get your ideas out there. Study more, read more, look at things, look at articles, look at the news, look at everything from the left to the right and everything in between, and really, really embrace what you know and turn that knowledge and that attitude into motivation for you, and everyone else will follow you in a sense that you will now become that leader that you're talking about, Nicholas. A lot of times, since we talked about this, is your father. This is not just a natural thing. It's down deep in a lot of people, but what you've been ingrained in, that what I've learned tonight is that Nick Perdomo, so Nick the second.
I'm the third.
I know, but Nick the second.
Oh, my dad. Yeah.
Your dad took all this stuff and just went at it. And now, luckily, it's turned into a very, very fruitful business, but it's not over.
It's not over.
It's only
Anytime, just begun.
Anytime someone says, oh, yeah, it'd be nice to have all that stuff. What are you doing? Get after it. Look at all these things so that you can actually get to a point that you want to get on track. And I think that's more important now than it ever has been in our lifetime. Me probably being the oldest on this page or on this panel, but like anyone out there listening, it's never too late to really get after it. And if you're younger, it's more important to do that. And I think the cigar industry is a great metaphor for a lot of different jobs that you may have. And again, like I said, when it comes to personal life, this is the big thing you have to look at. So guys, I appreciate it. I'm gonna raise a glass. You guys will both have empties.
It's that good.
It's that good.
Cheers.
Guys, thank you very much. Episode 133, part 2. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much. Share, like, and check out our sponsors.